Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular school board meeting. Today, August 21st, 2012. It is approximately 5:30 p.m., and we are at the boardroom, 1900 Price Road. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance. And as we have our moment of silence, let's please remember the following individuals. Maria Mary Garcia passed away on the 11th, who was one of our supervisors for payroll, and Rafael Gomez, who passed away on the 15th, one of our maintenance department staff members. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Moving on to roll call. Mr. Colunga is not with us yet. I'm not sure if he'll be joining us later throughout the meeting. Moving on to item 5, recommend approval of the agenda of the regular school board meeting, August 21st, 2012, with any corrections or deletions. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Roman numeral 7, conference presentation, number 3 will be withdrawn. Number 3 will be withdrawn. Roman numeral 10, general function A, item 27, pages 179A through G will be added to agenda backup. And item D, contracts and agreements, item 61, pages 274A will be added to agenda backup, and that is all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to consent agenda, I have received words from my colleagues that we will discuss and or deliberate the following agenda items. Items number 19.
We need to approve it first.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to move.
I have a motion, Mrs. Dr. Saavedra.
I would like to have the change of order
Okay.
today.
The order of the day?
The order of the day.
Yes, I would like to move, since we omitted number 3, I would like to have item 109, the consultation with attorney. What is it, 109 A and B? To be
Yes.
moved right after 4.
Right after 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 109, then we go back to 5.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine.
So I make that motion.
Second it.
I have a motion by Dr. Saavedra, seconded by Mrs. Perez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent agenda, I have received word from my colleagues that we will discuss and or deliberate the following agenda items. Items number 19, 26, 27, 37, 38, 40, 61, 65, 66, 73, 75, 88, and all of personnel. So again, we will discuss and or deliberate items number 19, 26, 27, 37, 38, 40, 61, 65, 66, 73, 75, and 81. And 81, we will discuss and or deliberate number 81, 88, and all of personnel. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion by Mrs. Presa, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to conference presentation number 1, recognition of the Brownsville Pony baseball team, 13-14 point division that captured the sectional and regional championships title and advanced to South Zone competition. This is a board member request. I'll give the floor to Mrs. Peña.
Yes, I just thought it would be, I saw fit that we recognize our children that have worked really hard to capture these titles and working to going towards a World Series, and I want to thank their parents and I want to recognize them because it shows the dedication and instills in them how hard work pays off, and I'm very proud of them because, believe it or not, in all of South Texas they went undefeated. No one could touch them, and they just had one loss, but I'm very proud of them because they went undefeated. And I'd like to thank Coach Fernando, Coach Moody, and Coach Villarreal. If they'd step up to the podium and announce the players, I would really appreciate it. Because of their dedication, these kids have gotten where they're at today.
Thank you, Mrs. Peña. Dr. Montoya?
Good afternoon. Thank you. Nathaniel Reina. Oh, not yet. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Nathaniel Reina. Alfredo Villarreal. Jose Montoya. Joey Moody. Ricky Reese. Mac Martinez. Santiago Moody. Coach Fred Villarreal. Coach Santiago Moody. And Coach Fernando Torres, myself.
And if I may, Dr. Escobedo, while they're coming through, I want to thank the parents. If the parents are in the audience, would you please stand, because you deserve a round of applause, because without you, your kids would not have gone this far. Thank you to all the parents and all the hard work they did for this.
Thank you, Coach. Congratulations.
Easy. Release is stress.
Congratulations. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'll move it back. Congratulations. Stop, sir. This is a stress reliever. You know, like when you step all the way toward the back, gentlemen. Kind of squeeze in towards the middle. Are they already?
Open your certificates, guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay, don't move. There's more paparazzi for you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations, and hope to see you next year. I expect you all will make it to the World Series. Counting on that.
And congratulations to the Pony baseball team for making us proud. Moving on to item 2, recognition of the Brownsville Pony baseball team 16, 17, 18, 19 Colt Palomino division, who recently captured the sectional, regional, and South Zone championship title and advanced to the Colt Palomino World Series in California. Board member request, Mrs. Peña. I'll yield the floor to you.
Thank you. And as they come in up to the podium, I want to congratulate this team, because you're looking at players, ladies and gentlemen, who went to the World Series as 13, 14-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds, and twice as 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. They've made a presence at the World Series 4 different times. I'm very proud of these kids because they have endurance and they've got what it takes. And I want to recognize them because they are Brownsville product, BISD students who were taught to excel and never stop. So thank you, and I yield the floor to Mr. Is it Maggie?
Frank.
Mr. Treviño. He will introduce your team.
No, I will, Cermeño.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Mr.
I'm
Cermeño.
the manager. All right, Eliezer Rojas from Hannah High School. Salvador Villalpando Jr. from UTV. Mario Rivera from Hannah High School. Margarito Treviño from UTV. Edwin Cantu from Hannah High School. Luis Cermeño, UTB. Juan Salazar, Porter High School. Brandon Martinez, Pace High School.
Mrs. Presas.
Yes, Dr. Montoya, we go back to the expectation of our coaches. We show here that there's talent, and therefore that's the expectation from our coaches, because we do have the talent. Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
Oh, yes, he's a chess player, too.
Yeah.
And while we line up, I'd like to also, if I may, congratulate Mr. Frank Cermeño, because without his help, ladies and gentlemen, this team wouldn't have made it over there, because we fundraise as much as we can. And I know that he was the biggest fundraiser we had to get these kids to California twice in a row, back-to-back World Series. That's never been done. So thank you very much to our coach and to all his players.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You want to stand tall so we can see your face?
Great job, gentlemen.
Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations to this fine group of young men for their accomplishment in the baseball arena. Moving on to item 4, presentation of the Texas 21st Century Program Golden A's Prime Award. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, we have a presentation here which is a very positive presentation from Mary Flores, who's been helping us with our 21st Century program. Mary and Mr. Jay Harris.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. Tonight we're here to honor something very, very special. Our Cycle 6 after school 21st Century program was rated #1 in the state of Texas under the direction of Mary Flores. And Mary, would you like to explain?
Thank you, Mr. Harris, and good evening, everyone. It is with great honor and a lot of pride that we come before you to share this celebration with all of you. A few weeks ago, we attended our 21st Century State Conference, and it was at this conference where we had the Golden Ace Awards, which was a ceremony, and we were honored with the top Prime Award for the state of Texas. There are over 350 programs across the state, and to be recognized as one of the top programs was really a great honor for us. So we're really very excited to celebrate this accomplishment. Just so that you'll know a little bit about our top Prime Award, this is the award that was awarded to us. The Prime Award is what TEA uses to evaluate programs. And it starts with the data we collect, the data we report, the fiscal management of the program, the quality of activities that we implement in our program. So to have them acknowledge us as one of the top programs, like I said, was a true honor. And the Golden A's, the reason they started giving these awards was because they wanted to inspire all the 21st century participants to make a difference in our children's lives. Well, here in BISD, our 21st Century program, we're really the catalyst that not only want to transform our students, but we want to transform our families and our communities. So our program is a program that honors and that serves all populations. This evening, I would like to recognize and honor the people that made this possible. I would like to start by, first of all, thanking you all, the board, because you've been a continuous support for us. I know that some of you have taken time out of your very busy schedules to either meet with our TEA representative, to visit some of our sites. I've had some of you even attend our staff meeting where you've been there to encourage our staff and to thank them for their service. And we even had one of you attend our national conference because you wanted to see what was happening across the nation with after-school programs. So for that, we thank you. And Dr. Montoya, thank you for your leadership and for your guidance and your support. And you too took time out of your busy schedule to join us at the national conference to pick up some good ideas. And I know that we shared a lot of that the other day. In the audience tonight, we also have some members of the community that we have partnered up with that have also been very influential in our program. We have our Communities in School Executive Director, Mr. Greg Flores. We have someone from the Dr. Antonio Juarez from the Brownsville Housing Authority that we work with. And at this time, I would also want to recognize some very key people in our program. And they are the people that without them, it wouldn't have been possible. They provide us the leadership at the campus level. And so I'd like to start out with Hannah High School and introduce our principal, Ms. Terry Alarcon, our site coordinator, Joanne Marchand Briones, our teacher, Norma Maldonado, and our parent, Mr. Juan Perez. From Porter, we have Principal Liz Valdez, Site Coordinator Raul Arteaga, Annabelle Pinkerton, and our parent, Lupita Salinas. From Lopez High School, we have Dalia Aguilar as our principal, Site Coordinator Elsa Sosa, and our parent, Cleo Perez. From Rivera High School, we have our principal, Hector Hernandez, Site Coordinator Claudia Davis, our teacher, Ana Silva, and our parent, Ms. Guadalupe Guillen. From Pace High School, we have Ms. Rose Longoria, Site Coordinator Griselda Ramos, one of our teachers, Mary Lozano, and our parent, Laura Marquez. And last but not least, I would also like to recognize our administrator, that if it hadn't been for her vision and her passion and her leadership and setting very high standards for our program, and not only setting those standards, but guiding us day in and day out so that we could meet those standards. Thank you, Dr. Atkinson. Hillary Clinton famously said that it takes a village to raise a child. And our U.S. Senator Rick Santorum recently responded that it takes a family to raise a child. And I think that what we need to ask is, what does it take to educate our children? And it's very simply, you can see it takes our community. So thank you to everybody that's been a part of this program. From the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you very much. And as a small token of our appreciation to you, the board, we have a little gift for you, and it's right in front of you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
You?
Hi, madre. I know, it's like, where's the water? They closed the door. Thanks.
You done?
I'm not. I can't. Don't you tell her to call me away. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Congratulations. Have a good birthday. Congratulations. Very well said. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you for your dedication.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication.
So much for everything.
Hey, Birdie.
How are you?
Good.
Say hi to Birdie.
Dedication.
Hey, you.
Sir, thank you for your dedication.
Poser. Hey, poser.
All the way back, please.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay.
Tippy toes. We have a lot of tall people.
Supposed to at the end.
Even at the end, they're tall. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations. That's okay.
I better go click. Oh, it closed. Very well.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your dedication that you bestowed not only to education, but to our community and to our district. Moving right along, we go to closed sessions pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 et sec. The board goes to closed session for consultation with attorney. The board reconvenes after closed session. We are on item 109, consultation with attorney regarding pending or threatened litigation matters. Moving on to 109A, consider settlement regarding special education case docket number 317 SC0712 before TEA. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. President.
Dr. Saavedra?
I second.
I make a motion that, based on consultation with attorney, whatever was discussed in executive session, I move that we accept.
I have a motion by Dr. Saavedra, seconded by Mrs. Presas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Aguilar abstained for the record. Moving on to 109B, discussion and consideration regarding threatened or pending litigation, including lawsuits by Hector Gonzalez and Antonio Juarez, and the status of settlement negotiations or settlement proposals. I'll open the floor for a motion. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, sir.
Dr. Saavedra?
I second.
What is your motion?
I make a motion. Let me make my motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept what was discussed in executive session.
Okay. And I understand that also the motion should read that all media inquiries go to Mr. Michel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and if I understand, it's the motion to accept the mediated settlement,
Yeah,
correct?
the mediated settlement, and that the Mr. Michel will handle all press questions.
So I have a motion by Dr. Saavedra, and I have a seconded by Mrs. Presas. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes. 3, Dr. Saavedra, Mrs. Longoria, myself, and Mrs. Presas vote in favor of accepting the motion. Mrs. Peña votes against, and Mr. Colunga and Mr. Aguilar abstain. Moving on,
Also,
Mrs. Presas.
could I, I'd like to just real briefly tell the public that, you know, I can say that on my behalf, I did see an injustice, and justice has been served. But I'd like to read that on behalf of Judge Hainan. Yeah, I checked with the attorney.
Mr. Aguilar.
Can I just read briefly from this so the public knows, and that the public...
Mr. Michel, are you okay with Mrs. Presas' statement?
Is there, you were going to ask a question.
Mr. Aguilar?
I was going to ask you, I thought we had agreed to let Mr. Michel to be the spokesman.
Just voted.
Yeah, but I'm not being a spokesman. I'm just reiterating that the public...
Mrs. Presas, I just caution you, this is a very serious matter. Mr. Michel, do you have an opinion?
I mean, if Ms. Presas Garcia wants to address her vote, I think she's allowed to in a very narrow control fashion, but it's up to her to consider the desires of the other trustees also.
As I just caution you, it's a very serious item.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and I understand, and we've reviewed that. However, the public can have access to every piece of document that was given to us before and today. It's been hard and rough for this district. However, the decision that we made today was based on what the attorneys shared with us, and therefore we made the best decision that any leader would do in order for us to save the district from a financial distress. And I'd like to invite the public to, if there's any questions, direct yourselves to the attorney or our public information. All these documents will be available for the public to see and view the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Presas. Moving on to item 5 of the on-conference presentation of contract with Region 1 Service Center for the Texas Education Center Service Center Curriculum Collaborative. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, one of our collaboratives, which we do have in the last 3 years in our district, has been the C-Scope curriculum package. And our curriculum and instruction department would like to share some specific information in that area. I know the concerns has been the usage as well as its impact on student academic achievement, which are very valid concerns and questions. So we'll go ahead and do that. I believe Ms. B. Garcia, you will be the primary presenter on this.
Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, administration, board members, it gives me great pleasure this evening to provide and present a review of 2011-2012 C-Scope. And with us this evening, we have one course specialist from each one of our core areas, language arts, math, science, and social studies, who will be coming up here and sharing the review of 2011-2012 C-Scope. We also have from Region 1, and I'd like for them to stand up and be recognized, we have Dr. Eduardo Cancino, Deputy Director. We have Mrs. Ermelinda Hesbrook, who is our Curriculum Instruction Administrator at Region 1. And we also have Ms. Elaine Selhorn, who is our Innovation and Resource Development Contact at Region 1. Thank you for being here. This evening, we're going to share C-Scope from the eyes of administrators and teachers. So you're going to also see that as we present our review for C-Scope, we have campus administrators, we have campus teachers who are going to demonstrate a passion for their implementation of C-Scope in their classrooms and at their campuses. So first of all, I'd like to share some background about C-Scope. This is the framework that has been endorsed in the following documents. Our district improvement plan, which was approved on July 10th, it has C-Scope throughout our district improvement plan. Our district-wide grading procedures includes our C-Scope implementation as we go through the document, and this too was board approved on June 19th. Then we have our Texas Literacy Initiative grant that we're very proud of because it explicitly states C-Scope as a district's curriculum framework, or that curriculum online management system that we use K through 12. Also, we shared with you back in June, we had Ms. Pam from the Assessment Research and Evaluation Department. She shared the assessment calendar for the 12-13 school year, which also has a basis for our district mini marks and our benchmarks. And our curriculum specialist will share with you that C-Scope, the year at a glance, is used for this purpose as we work through the assessment calendar this coming school year. Additional background on C-Scope is that it provides an aligned curriculum, and we have stressed the word all. all state standards that are required to be taught by our teachers. For example, our texts, which are the state standards. Our English proficiency standards, which are our ELPs that are required to be taught in all areas, and our college career readiness standards. What is C-Scope? It's a quality curriculum process. It encompasses planning, which means that you have focused and guided classroom instruction with possible adjustments that campuses can make as they see fit. Implementation, you have that teaching and learning, which allows campus flexibility to supplement with instructional resources or materials. Then you also have that assessment piece in C-Scope. For example, the before, it's in our performance indicators, which are instructional focus documents. Our instructional focus documents serve a purpose for assessment. We know, and we're going to be, principals and teachers will be sharing with you that the performance indicators give us that pulse to know if we're using this curriculum, if we're using the IFD, we already know what performance indicators need to be attained by the students at the end of that lesson or the end of that unit. During the instruction, we have that checking for understanding. C-Scope offers exemplar lessons, and that's what they are, exemplar lessons. If our campuses, our teachers feel the need that they need to use some other resources to check for understanding, as long as it meets that C-Scope's rigor, we are okay with checking for understanding using those documents. And then after, we have our unit assessments. So as you see, that quality curriculum process has the planning, implementation, and assessment when we use C-Scope in the district, and you're going to hear from principals and teachers that use this curriculum as they progress in their classrooms throughout the school year. What are the critical elements, or how does C-Scope support our principals and teachers? First of all, we have a scope, and in C-Scope, it's a vertical alignment document. And within that vertical document, we have text and star analysis, we have concepts. It offers that specificity and that rigor. You're going to hear from principals and teachers and how they use the vertical alignment documents or the scope, our principals as how they use that scope throughout the school year. Our year at a glance, which is our sequence. Here we have our star blueprints. We have our texts that are bundled. There are so many texts to be taught that C-Scope offers the bundling of text so that our teachers can teach a bundled number of texts within a lesson or a unit. As you can see, the year at a glance, it's that sequence, and it allows for customization by district, by grade level. You're going to hear about the third learning platform, which is now even more user-friendly, where campuses, with the guidance from specialists and their campus administrators, are going to be able to customize the framework or the documents as they work with their campus staffs. Additional C-Scope critical elements or support are, the acronym is IFD, Instructional Focus Documents. What do we find in there? We find the key understandings. We find the performance indicators. We find the academic vocabulary that is necessary, especially for our limited English proficient students. We have exemplar lessons. We have the 5E model in math, science, social studies. And then in language arts, we have a balanced literacy model for language arts. And you find the rigor in the learning process. For assessment purposes, C-Scope offers performance indicators throughout their instructional focus documents. The assessments for the children can be products, can be demonstrations, and paper pencil tests. Mr. Oscar Cantu, Jr. will come up and provide an executive summary of the C-Scope review.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, board members, administration, and audience. I'm Oscar Cantu, Jr., Interim Administrator for Secondary Curriculum and Instruction. Continuing on, I will focus on the executive summary of C-Scope review, implementation and usage, C-Scope benchmark assessments 2011-2012, and an introduction to the specialists in their presentations of the 2011-2012 CNI surveys. Thank you, ma'am. The executive summary of C-Scope review. This was introduced in the fall of 2007 via a 3-year phase-in process. It followed a professional development, multi-tiered training schedule. And during this rollout, we provided district-wide trainings every 6 weeks and as per campus requests. Part of this executive summary includes implementation and usage. Professional development sessions were offered every 6 weeks. When we looked at summer school programs, we built the curriculum on C-Scope. C-Scope has been utilized in planning and implementing classroom instruction and in planning and implementing professional development. The C-Scope year-at-a-glance document, as Ms. Garcia referred to earlier, has been utilized to create our district benchmarks that target the readiness and supporting standards that STAR expects from our students. And again, it's about rigor, rigor, and rigor. When planning with teachers, the C-Scope framework has been a vital tool during campus planning. And C-Scope has provided clarification of STAR readiness and supporting standards. This next document, actually this table, is a blueprint. This is an English language arts blueprint. Now, underneath the header, it says C-Scope YAGs. A YAG basically is utilized to anchor specificity. This is the year at a glance. It is utilized for district benchmark development. This YAG, if you look at it from left to right under columns, it focuses on reporting categories 1, 2, and 3. And it talks about the standards that our students are responsible to master, and thus what the teachers must have our students master. And it also talks about the number of questions. Now, to my right is Ms. Pam Van Ravensway, our Administrator for Assessment, Research, and Evaluation. I want to invite her up just for a moment to say a few words about how we collaborate together with our two departments.
Dr. Escobedo and Dr. Montoya, board members. This past year, as was presented to the Curriculum Committee, the BISD Assessment Department and the Curriculum Department worked collaboratively to create benchmarks for this district. It was a good experience, I believe, for both departments. And looking at the results that we showed growth from each benchmark through to the STAR test. This year, we've also incorporated into that collaboration the special ed department and the bilingual department, and using C-Scope, we're going to provide the campuses again with benchmarks based on that C-Scope, hopefully to raise our scores even more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Van Ravensway. Our specialists will be coming up in a few minutes, and they will have a variety of wonderful presenters coming up and sharing their experiences and their passion for C-Scope. But before that, let me explain what we were looking at with our CNI surveys from 2011-2012. The targeted area, to examine the various components involved in C-Scope implementation. And what was our method in collecting this information? It was online, to obtain information from teachers on C-Scope strengths, areas of improvement, challenges and factors that facilitate implementation. I want to thank you. And at this time, Ms. Cristina Barrientos, our lead ELA specialist, it's all yours.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, board members, administration, and audience. My name is Cristina Barrientos Diaz, and I'm a proud language arts specialist with the Curriculum and Instruction Department. I want us to look at the summary of our survey that was conducted in April of 2012. We had a total of 805 respondents from the elementary, middle, and high school level. And we really wanted to gauge, we really wanted to see how they rated their knowledge, their skill base of C-Scope curriculum for implementation. And so the questions were asked, how do they rate themselves in using C-Scope for addressing English language arts, reading, instruction, or text? And as you can see, our teachers were 89% highly to moderately proficient in this area. We asked them, how do you rate yourself with your skill base of C-Scope curriculum for addressing that critical area of our English language learners? We know that that's a targeted area we want to support our teachers with. And they also said at 91% they felt they were highly or moderately proficient. Lastly, we did ask them about aligning the resources that they have, their state-adopted textbooks, to C-Scope, and if they felt they were proficient in doing that to implement their instruction using C-Scope. And they did say they were 78% of our teachers were highly or moderately proficient. Overall, we were encouraged by these results, and we want to get better. We want to provide more support, and we know that we have more growth to do. And as you see in our second slide, our conclusion states that the majority of our teachers are proficient in utilizing C-Scope. And, you know, as a result, we should see that in their classroom instruction. Our recommendations, we want to get better, we want to improve, we want to increase levels of support in all of these areas. We look at our C-Scope alignment reviews, where we bring in teachers every 6 weeks to preview their documents, to preview their lessons so that they can be prepared. They can make modifications as needed. We want to model the use of C-Scope documents for their planning, to say how they can get together as a grade level, and you'll hear from a teacher, and how they use those documents to drive, to plan their instruction. We want to continue to monitor and provide feedback for classroom instruction and give that feedback to teachers, to administrators. This is a basis for us. I would like to add that the C-Scope vision for language arts states that literacy and language are not only seen in our classrooms, but are seen in real life, in the world around them. It stresses for students to see this connection through real life, and does so in a meaningful yet rigorous manner. Our classrooms implementing C-Scope are filled with sharing, with talking, with writing, with reading, and they do so as a community, and they do so at a level that is STAR ready. This sparks a love for reading and writing, something that's close to my heart and many of our hearts, and it takes our students to a higher level for the not only for the assessment, but for ultimately for their life. So I want to bring and introduce a teacher and a principal. Ms. Phyllis Ward is one of our reading department chairs at Manzano Middle School, and her principal, Ms. Norma Torres. If they'd come up and like to share some of their experiences, and to us, they really are a model for implementing using C-Scope in their campus.
Good evening. I am Ms. Ward. I am the department chair of Manzano Middle School. Very proud to be the department chair of reading at Manzano Middle School. Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, and all board members and the community. It's such an honor to be here representing my reading department of Manzano Middle School. It has been a very successful year for us with STAR, with our reading department, and I would have to say that C-Scope has honestly been a very strong framework and a very effective map to guiding us to attack STAR in the manner that it should have been attacked. I would like to say that it's been essential and vital for us to study the year at a glance, how to approach instruction in a timely manner. The year at a glance with C-Scope has paced us on how to attack our instruction, and again, careful analysis of C-Scope, careful analysis of our ELARs, of our standards, of what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing it. I can honestly say our department worked very, very hard analyzing C-Scope, researching it, adapting it so that it would meet our students' needs, and it really paid off. It's been a roadmap, and it has effectively led us and paced us in accomplishing meaningful and rigorous instructional learning. You often hear sometimes teachers say, oh, you know, we don't use those lessons. And I think what they mean by that, I can say for myself, is we look at the lessons in C-Scope. We're guided. It's an awesome, strong framework and a very strong curriculum. But we adapt those lessons as need be, of course, for our students' needs, for our various populations of kids. You know, kids nowadays, their interests, the problems they're struggling with at home. There's just so many challenges against students and against teachers. And if teachers take the time to care about their students and then also care about the curriculum and care about those ELARs and attack both of them, it's the perfect formula. And C-Scope, I can say, the data is there of Manzano's success with the help of C-Scope, other instructional resources as well, and caring teachers that took the time to, and an awesome principal that just motivates you and pushes you in such a positive way to really give that instruction that these kids need. The vertical alignment, I meet with my department every Monday, my reading department, once a week. We go over all the time vertical alignment through C-Scope, reminding them as a department chair, 6th grade needs to attack this ELAR in this way so that they're ready in 7th grade under the 7th grade column of the vertical alignment. This is what your job is. 8th grade teachers, reading teachers, this is your job in the 8th grade frame of vertical alignment. And my teachers have a really good understanding that if they are not doing their part in an effective, accurate way, these kids are going to be lost. 6th grade builds certain skills and addresses the ELARs, preparing them for 7th grade. Then they're scaffolding, building on those ELAR skills. And so, again, C-Scope has been nothing but wonderful, helpful, rigorous, demanding, and yes, we have adapted with other instructional resources as need be. The resources in C-Scope are great. I love, personally, as a reading teacher, the optional literature selections that they provide that I get to choose from. And if all of them are perhaps not as interesting as I think my little angels would think it is, then, well, I will bring in other resources, of course. The instructional focus document is awesome. At crunch time, when STAR is here, I look at all my performance indicators. I will stay up all night with a cup of coffee, and I'll tell myself, okay, hours and hours of tutorial, what do my little angels still need work on? And I go to that year at a glance. I go back to those performance indicators. I go over and over, what did I highlight? What did they know and what do they not know? And again, C-Scope has been nothing but a solid, strong framework, a perfect map, a great foundation for Manzano Middle School, the reading department, to take off for our first year of STAR. It's been great. And I would just like to end with saying, I'm a bit nervous. Can you guys hear my heartbeat? No? We are a caring team. We work as a team. We work hard. We understand that together as a team, only then can we be successful. A team of Spartans. We have a positive attitude. A lot of that energy is fed to us also from our principal, who's always just nothing but positive, positive, positive. A teacher's heart and attitude is the ultimate key for success with the help of C-Scope and everything else. I think as a teacher myself, if we can give students the same respect that we require and consider their hurts and challenges beyond the classroom walls, we will reach them and they will care about what we have to say through C-Scope and many other resources. Thank you.
You obviously have a call and you're very passionate. Thank you.
I know, I adore her. She's awesome. Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, and board members, community, good evening. I'm Ms. Torres. I'm the campus principal at Manzano Middle School, the very proud principal. And yes, I do have very passionate teachers who do utilize the C-Scope, and they do an excellent job of doing it. With the help of our specialists, in fact, just today during staff development, we had one of the specialists there. One of the lead teachers were helping us review the C-Scope, making sure we go through it and showing us the new components of it. And so we do utilize it. We do supplement it with other resources, but it does help us with a year at a glance, and it helps guide our instruction. And so our reading department did do very well, and I'm very proud of them. And I think our students are benefiting from the hard work and dedication that our teachers put in with the help of C-Scope. So thank you.
Now we'd like to bring Margaret Barron with math, please.
Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, board members, administration, and audience. My name is Margaret Barron, and I'm one of the math specialists. In May of 2012, we also conducted a survey, and we considered it a needs assessment. We wanted to know what the teachers needed for the following year. We had a total of 486 teachers that responded. 87% of those teachers that responded, which was 422 of them, responded that they utilize C-Scope in one way or another. Whether it's the lessons, the documents, anything that helps them plan and get ready for instruction. 75% of the respondents reported that planning together that they plan together at the campus level. They get together as a department, they get together with other teachers and with their teams, and they plan for their instruction. 92% of the respondents indicated that their challenges in implementing C-Scope was planning time and using manipulatives. C-Scope is busy, and they do have to plan for it. They have to read the lessons because they have to look through the lessons to see where their are and where they can adapt the lesson to meet the needs of their students. Training for C-Scope is done at a campus level and a district level. We did a lot of training for C-Scope when it was first implemented. We did it through the district, we did it by campuses, and we did it rigorously. Afterwards, since math was the first content area that implemented C-Scope, we did it for new teachers at the campus level. Every specialist would take care of their cluster, and we would go campus by campus doing the training. Our conclusions for the survey was that math teachers are using C-Scope, and they did indicate that they did require additional time for planning. But they did say that they did not need the training every 6 weeks. In other words, they didn't need for us to walk them through every lesson that was going to be taught for that 6 weeks. Our recommendations are to continue to support on-site trainings and recommend effective teaching strategies to assist teachers for implementation of C-Scope. With all the documents that C-Scope has, my favorite document is the instructional focus document. The instructional focus document, which is the IFD, has the performance indicator. When teachers are resistant to C-Scope, I tell them, look at the performance indicator and tell me that your lesson that you're going to use is going to make the kids be able to perform this content area when you are finished. If your lesson can do that, then you can implement it along with C-Scope. I have a teacher from Lopez High School that implemented C-Scope 100% this last year. His name is Mr. Albert Villarreal. He was very successful with his students this year, and he is here to tell you his story. Albert Villarreal from Lopez High School and Principal Dalia Aguilar from Lopez High School.
Let's see here. Okay, after hearing everything that the middle school English teacher said, it was like, wow. I was impressed. And coming from a math, it's totally different, but I'll try to do my best. By the way, hello everybody. I was kind of like caught off guard yesterday. They told me, Ms. Aguilar told me, Mr. Varela, I need to talk to you. Kind of like at the end of the day when she was going over something important. And then I was kind of like a little bit confused as to, okay, did I do something wrong or what? So then I came over here, talked to some people that I recall from past years, and they told me, okay, report to this place. And then we started talking about what had happened with me last year. And kind of brought memories as to sometimes we as teachers sacrifice our families because we have to be there Saturdays and we have to put in the extra hours. Sometimes my wife would tell me, hey, you're going to sleep in the bed, not in the bedroom, but in the living room tonight. Okay, it's okay. But the thing was, it's like, what kept me going was that the kids were putting a lot of effort They were saying, sir, we need help. Can you stay and help us? Especially the kids that were coming in from Mexico. Some of them were, sir, I don't understand the language. And I was like, wow. I don't understand some of the Spanish language correctly, right? We talk the Spanish, but we don't talk it correctly. So I was like, okay. So we got them some dictionaries, English-Spanish dictionaries, and then I started learning myself. And like I told the kids, I'm going to be learning with you, because the year prior to that, when I was teaching geometry, of course, the geometry was for tax. So we had already planned. I knew what to do. We had tested the kids before, and I had a very good idea of what was needed to be done. But with the stars and teaching geometry, and it was the first year that I was going to be teaching under the stars and being assessed, it was like, what do? I don't have information to kind of go back and kind of see really what has to be done. So what I had to do was really sit down and look through all the documentation of the C-scope and kind of like study it, learn with the kids, made mistakes. But I think that by making those mistakes, you're able to learn a lot. And some of the kids were, sir, pues, how do you do it? Why is it that you like doing this? Pues, I don't know. It's just that it comes easy to me. Math, like I was hearing right now, why do you like math? And I was like, it's just something that I understand. It's not that I like it, but I understand it. It makes sense to me. And one of the things that I was real sad about last year was I wanted to get together with my buddies at the school, kind of discuss a little bit about, hey, what are you doing in your class? What's helping you and this and that? But at the same time, I couldn't because they were doing tax and I was doing end of course. So it was kind of hard to kind of like help each other. Of course, we do the everyday talk, and then the planning. It was like I had to do the lesson plans and do this and do that, and I was like, man, that's a lot of work. But I think that in the end, it paid off. A lot of the kids did really good. They understood. They liked the hands-on activities, cutting, putting things together, making those shapes. And one of the things that I liked was that I had a student that was always correcting me. And I was like, sir, are you sure that answer is correct? And I was like, okay, let me go back. And then I was looking at it, okay, I made a mistake here. And it's like, it's telling me, wow, this kid is really paying attention to what we're doing in class. And makes you feel proud as a teacher. When somebody corrects you. And then that same kid that was correcting me in class, he went to the city math meet and placed. And I was like, wow. And even though his grandpa had passed away a week before the competition, and I thought he was going to say, no, sir, I can't go. But he did, because he wanted to tell his grandpa that he could do it. And he eventually got first place in the city math meet. So I was really impressed. So for me, C-scope has been very good. I've heard a lot of teachers say, well, I use it, but I don't use it that much. But it depends on the content. Like for me, the geometry, it lends itself very good to what we were doing. And some other contents, it might not lend as very well, but they do use it. They use a lot of the lessons. And again, rigor. There's a lot of rigor. And some of the kids were saying, sir, we're going to pass the test, but it's real hard. We want to pass the test, but it's real hard. Well, keep on going. Sometimes the kids would take the test, and they would see their grades, and they're like, sir, I can't pass the test. And we would work on corrections. We would do whatever necessary. They would come to tutorial and things like that, and of course, they would understand it better. But in the end, when they saw the results, a lot of the kids were really, really, really happy. They even announced it through the intercom, Mr. Villarreal, you got 100% passing. And it was like, wow. The kids stopped. They were so happy. I wanted to teach, but I couldn't, right? So it was incredible. It was incredible to have all those kids getting a passing score on their tests and having them come back and be real happy about it, and even giving you a thanks, which is the reward that we want at the end. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, and board members. Yes, his class got 100% passing, and a lot of them, and I don't remember the exact percentage, I'm thinking it was like 37, 38, were in level 2. And so that was good. That's a really good percentage for level 2 in geometry. So we were very happy about that. As a principal, the reason I do like C-Scope is we have a lot of first-year teachers and second-year teachers that are just really learning. We have teachers that don't have the experience from the content area. They come in with an alternative certification, and this plan is just absolutely perfect for them. It's their foundation that they can grow on. From what the teachers are telling me, and we really haven't had a chance to look at all the lessons right now, is that C-Scope it's new and improved this summer. If we would have started C-Scope, 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, at the stage that it is right now, we would be a lot better off. But it's getting better as we're learning, making mistakes. Right now, it's very easily used, user-friendly. There's a lot more technology. There's a lot of things that you can share from one teacher to another, and the planning is becoming easier. We did some planning this summer with the curriculum specialists, and the teachers were able to access C-Scope. I think math was the only one that wasn't quite ready, but as they've opened it now, it's really, really a lot better than it has been before. So we're hoping that we can keep it, so if they keep improving it, it's even better for us, because our new teachers, our veteran teachers can really work on it. It has the rigor, it has level 2, level 3, level 4 questioning, and that's exactly what we're looking for. If we didn't have C-Scope, is one of the questions we pose to the teachers. Are you all willing to sit down and do lesson plans at the same level? And it would be very time consuming. So thank you very much, and just we're going to do what we have to do and keep up the planning, of course, with the help of the curriculum department. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we also have Dolores Emerson, Morningside at Breeden. Sorry, musical.
There's a bit of an identity crisis. Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, we've used C-Scope since the very beginning, and I know that we've used it diligently with math. We use it as a framework, and the scope and sequence is very important. It covers all the TEKs, the vocabulary that's in there. The teachers use it to cover the vocabulary, look at the definitions, and make sure that the rigor is there at that level. The teachers then go into it and have used it consistently in math, especially in math, and they go into the tests and use those tests as assessments to see where the students are at and the level that they're at. And it has provided a great deal of success at our previous school, and we will provide success at our new school. Thank you.
Our next content area is science. Erica Medina.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, board members, administrators, and audience. My name is Erica Medina, the science specialist. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, science TEKs went under revision. And under the new revision, we had a new stipulation under the scientific investigation and reasoning, which was for the elementary was a recommended hands-on time. For the secondary, which is middle school and high school, there was a mandated amount of 40% of the instruction had to be classroom or outdoor investigation. With the use of C-Scope, we were able to allow teachers, as we can see on our survey that we conducted back in May of 2012, we can see that over 80% of our teachers have used C-Scope over 50% of the time. So they were able to use the C-Scope and apply the state mandates into their classroom instruction. We also saw that in the survey, teachers, over 70% of them said that they had been sufficiently trained. We have trained teachers at grade level meetings. We have trained them at district waiver days. We have trained teachers using C-Scope at what we call focus trainings after school once per 6 weeks. We have trained them and summer academies using C-scope. And usually at the grade level meetings, I always like to start either at the grade level meetings or at the focus meetings with, okay, let's pull out the VADs, the vertical alignment documents. What are you supposed to be teaching? Let's look at the year at a glance. Okay, if we're teaching weather, what is it in weather that we're teaching? And so the teachers start talking about it, and then we go back and look at the documents. Are we where we're supposed to be? And if so, let's go ahead and move on because we're on a timely matter. Did we get what we need to? Let's look at the assessments that we had. We had our benchmarks that were C-scope based. Did we meet the mark? Where were we low? Let's look at where we were low. What did we use to teach it? Did you use a C-scope lesson, or did you use a lesson that you wanted to, that you did it from a local resource? And teachers, and this is all elementary teachers from all campuses come together at, and I'm speaking of 5th and 8th grade, come together and then they share, oh, well, I used this lesson. Well, maybe let's look at C-scope and say, let's try this lesson as a way to see if kids can understand it and meet that student expectation better. One of the things that teachers did mention as an obstacle or a challenge was the lack of materials and the lack of class time to actually do the lessons. So in conclusion, one of the things that we did notice was that teachers are using C-scope, whether they use it to plan, or they use it as part of their instruction, or they use it as their assessment to create their assessments, and they guide their assessments. They are using it. I know some teachers, especially like new teachers, that use it completely to a T. Other teachers, even veteran teachers, just will pick and choose what they use, but they use it. So as a recommendation, we will continue supporting the campuses with equipment and materials. We will continue on focus trainings. And I have to say one thing here. Everybody's talked about the IFDs. There's one part of the IFDs that we forgot to mention, especially in science, because in science, it is sometimes harder to clear a misconception than to teach a new subject, a new content. So one of the things that we do in our trainings, and we always talk about, are the misconceptions. This is a part of the IFD document. And a lot of the times, even as specialists, I say, wow, I didn't think of that misconception that the kid can bring. Because we always hear it. Well, my grandpa said it, or I learned it on TV, and so those are the things that we have to address, as well as the things that our student expectations say. And of course, we're going to continue focusing on the readiness and supporting standards so that we can all be successful in STAR. At this point in time, it is my pleasure to present Ms. Sandra Hakovich, Keller Elementary teacher, Christian Calderera, Keller principal, and Ms. Nora Camargo, Castañeda Elementary principal.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, honorable board members, audience, administration. I am Sandra Hatkevig, representing Keller Elementary, very proudly, but not only Keller, BISD. I've been an educator I'm starting my 26th year, so I have educated quite a few students, and when C-Scope started, I did start with the math, and I was a math teacher at Sharp Elementary, so I have been doing C-Scope for a very long time and consider myself very knowledgeable in C-Scope and able to implement it. Some of the concerns, I kind of was bothered when Ms. Medina mentioned that the supplies, because I've never had that problem. It's just a simple email, hey, we need this, supplies are brought to us. It all goes back to the teacher planning. As far as C-Scope, one of the main things that I really like, because we have a problem with our ELL's academic vocabulary. Well, C-Scope has that in the IFD. The academic vocabulary is there for us. So the students are able to be exposed to that if implemented, I say 100% because I think it should be implemented. The science curriculum is a hands-on science curriculum, so the students are getting actually all types of learning is taking place, the tactile, the kinesthetic, the verbal, the everything. So the student, in other words, you're attacking all types of learning. All students should be able to learn and will be. And if not, you can pull in those extra resources to get that individualized instruction. It's got the rigor. The Doc 2s, the Doc 3s are already there for you. There's, you don't have to go and look and try and reword questioning. It's already there for you. The key understanding. with the science especially, you have that journaling that the students can do, the hands-on lessons. They go through that discovery where they're getting that inferencing, they're getting that critical thinking, the drawing conclusions, which are your Doc 2s and Doc 3s. I really like that we had that mini conference last week where we were able to navigate already the new face that C-Scope has. So we are trained. We just have to go to the training and get it done. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, Superintendent of Schools, honorable board members, and distinguished administration, and also community members. My name is Christian Calderera. I'm the very proud and blessed principal of Keller Elementary School. And as principal, I think I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you guys what C-Scope does. What C-Scope does for our kids in the area of science and all the other areas is improve student performance and achievement, and that's what we're here for. And it really assists our kids in developing cognitive thinking skills and high-order thinking skills because of the format of which C-Scope is designed to do. Teachers are implementing it at Keller Elementary School, and again with the science from kinder to 5th grade. And we showed gains both from the benchmarks in November through February, and then from February to our STAR scores. I'm very happy to say that every structure is only as strong as the foundation of which it's built upon. Our curriculum framework is C-Scope. Our teachers use that C-Scope to develop that foundation for our children, and ultimately we are successful. Not just Keller Elementary, but I can speak on behalf of schools across our district that C-Scope is an effective curriculum for our kids. Speaking specifically about science, that hands-on discovery learning that our children have, and somewhat the messes they make in their classrooms. Our shows that effective instruction is going on based on that alignment. As a principal, I can tell you we're data-driven by this C-Scope curriculum. We find out the areas of need and the areas that we need to target via the C-Scope alignment with our Texas education knowledge and skills. And we can sit there and focus on what our group students need. So again, it's about student achievement, and I'm a strong proponent of the C-Scope curriculum. I can also say that the Curriculum and Instruction Department has been outstanding, providing resources to us. Again, like Ms. Halkovic said, we have what we need. We ask for what we need. You don't get if you don't ask. And so we know that we are being very well taken care of, and we'd like to see that continue in all areas. And the specialists have been at grade level meetings, faculty meetings. They present on C-Scope. They've already done the mini conference and trained our science teachers in the elementary already. So we're ready to go with this. I've also had the opportunity through some outstanding staff development at the administrator in service to look at the third learning platform of the new C-Scope. And looking at that, we're talking user friendly, just like Ms. Aguilar said. Teachers can develop lesson plans, develop assignments, coordinate instruction, align vertically and horizontally, all through the ease of the C-Scope program. I figure we've started this, we need to continue this. And with the ease of which the C-Scope format has up and coming that our teachers and ultimately our students will use, it can only prove to be beneficial for everyone in our district. So again, please do consider how important this is for our students and how important this is as a guide for not only teachers and administrators and main office, but for everyone involved in the progress and use of this curriculum framework that we have in BISD. Thank you.
Good evening.
Basically, you all
Dr.
support C-Scope, huh?
Yeah, Dr. Montoya, and good evening.
Why did I get that impression?
Dr. Escobedo and board members. Gosh, what could I say that he didn't already say, right? I just want to come up here and just say, give our support of the C-Scope program. As a principal, we use it at our campus. Our teachers like it. I like it because it helps us maintain that instructional focus, keeps us data-driven, and the teachers like it because of the flexibility. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have comments or questions for the board?
Yes, I do.
Dr. Saavedra?
Yes. You said this survey was conducted in April?
And this one's in May.
May?
May 2012.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, you had the science, and you had 542 total respondents. Yes. How many science teachers do we have in the district?
In the district, we have, in K-5, we have every teacher teaches science except for 5th grade. Some of them are departmentalized. So at that point in time, K-5, we have approximately 2,000 teachers, I believe. Is that what we said?
That's just kinder.
Kinder
I mean, we won't go through the whole math thing
okay,
here.
And then secondary, we have about 250 teachers in science.
So that's over 2,250 teachers, more or less. Okay, out of those, only 542 responded?
Yes.
Okay, so you're basing your data on the support of C-Scope with just 542 total respondents? I'm asking the question to her. I'll be right there.
Okay, this is all teachers, the survey was open to all teachers. These are the teachers that responded. So this is like a snapshot. This
Right.
is a sample, this is what it is.
I
of
just
our
want my
district.
numbers clarified, that's
It's
all.
a sample of the district,
Okay.
yes.
And I guess for the ELA specialist, I want the same numbers, please. And let me tell you why I'm asking the question. It has nothing to do with the teachers and the principals and the usage. Any program is great if it's utilized properly. My question, I guess, comes next to Region 1, and you guys are next. I have questions for you guys. But my concern is that, and the reason why we're bringing this issue up is because I have gotten calls from teachers, and that I think it was a valid point that the follow-up, the supplies, the manipulatives may be available to some campuses, which is great, but it's not equitable across the board. And I think that's one concern, that I have. The other concern I have is, do we have somewhere in the district, and I know that it has nothing to do with you all. I mean, y'all are the specialists and you bring back the data. But the evaluation of this particular program as it relates to student achievement, because to be honest with you, I'm not really happy about our scores. I mean, and so if we're basing that on the scores that we have work to do. We know that. This is just, I know, and I understand it very well. And I understand that this is a sounding board, and it's great. And kudos to those of you administrators who do the follow-up and teachers who do the implementation. But unfortunately, that's one side of the spectrum. The other side is we still need to work on the other side that is not utilizing it for whatever reason. If they say they don't have the materials, they don't have the supplies, they're talking about planning, we need to look at that data. We need to really look at it. We need to encourage the other respondents. Maybe they didn't respond for fear of, I don't know how it was tallied, if they had to write their name and give, or if it's one of those monkey questionnaires,
Survey.
And that monkey jumps around and that monkey survey. Because people are not as apt to give because of fear of retaliation or whatever. I mean, we know this is real. My concern and my question, and this is why we continue to bring it up, is I want to look at, we've not gotten the data. We have not received the numbers, utilization. Let me tell you why. I worked for a computer company, and we sold software to the districts, many districts. And my sole responsibility was to look at utilization. I'm looking at utilization. If my teachers, my campuses are not using this C-scope, then what is Region 1 doing to help and call back and give back those numbers to the district? Because we don't get those numbers. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can say my teachers are using it, but are they really using it? The only way I know is if I can track them using the software and having that utilization capability.
Dr. Saavedra, if I may, I have just two comments. One, as far as our elementary, we have a replenishment center where we offer them supplies. All they have to do is request it.
Okay, which is great.
Okay, and then as far as who accesses it, that's a little misleading as far as even if we were to do just data on that, because at some schools, due to resources, and I can probably name about 4 that I know off the top of my head, the facilitator will go on there at the beginning of every 6 weeks and download for every content, for every grade level, because she has to control the ink and the paper that's being used as a resource. So she'll hold.
So is it user-friendly, guys?
No, it's not. We're limited.
No, but there's.
You just let you. If I may, Dr.
Mrs.
The statement you just made answered my question on the complaints that I'm getting because of the limited supply, the ink and the paper.
And what
when
we do.
If I can finish?
Sure.
When it comes to children, The only way you're going to get results and you're going to be effective if you go the whole 9 yards and not turn around and say, you know what, we only got this far because we ran out of supplies. We need to stop and wait till we get another amount. By then, you lost the kids. So that's the problem and the complaints that I'm getting, that sure, the resource center is there, but if you need more because these kids need more emphasis and you have to rerun a lesson plan, wait, I already gave you that supply. Well, it wasn't enough. This is where I'm hearing the doors are shut. This is where I'm hearing the results aren't there.
And then the other thing we do is during trainings, we give them a CD with the lesson. So sometimes the actual specialist will give them the whole 6 weeks so that they have it at a glance. And they also put it on their desktop. Some teachers go on there at the beginning of the semester and put all the lessons on their desktops, and then they just project them that way, which is usually what we tell them. You could get one copy on your desktop, and you have the student copy, and you just project it from there, and you work with that.
Well, here's the problem. I'm sorry, I wasn't finished. Here's the problem that I have. Not all children can work with something that's on the board. You've got to have it in front. You've got children that are dyslexic or they have a different way of learning, and they have to feel that thing. They have to take it home. They have to sit there and learn it. When you're saying we don't have the ability and capability to give it to you to go home and maybe share with an older brother and sister or your dad or somebody that can give it to you, then that child didn't move on. Yeah. So exactly what you're saying is a concern that I have, that it's a good program if you can have the supplies and everything you need to implement it until the child understands it. Because if you don't, then that child is lost, and the scores give you the result of how you lost and how many you lost.
As an educator, may I?
Go ahead, ma'am.
As an educator, we all know our special needs students. We know our special populations, and we know those that require that, either the dyslexia, either in the special ed. We always do that with the bilingual kids. We, hand out the paper along with either a glossary, or we hand out an English-Spanish dictionary so that they can use at the same time. We always, we're not going to, as I've seen it in classrooms, teachers will, even though they're copying it off, then they walk around and they discreetly hand a student a sheet of paper that already has everything to it. They maximize the resources is what I'm seeing at the campus level.
Well, if I may, they're only doing what they can with what they've got. And not everyone has a special needs way to learn, just their own individualized way of learning. But when you limit it because they can't take it with them because we don't have the resources, then that program causes a problem in your ability to learn. Because not everyone's a special needs, or not everyone has special needs to learning, and the child won't speak up, and the teacher says, well, I can't give it to you, I'm out of paper. How many instructors are pulling money out of their pockets to meet the needs of these children? That's unfair to our children, but they have to do it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Escobedo. Dr. Montoya, one of the reasons the audience talked about vigorous and alignment, all good things about C-scope, that is one of the reasons we selected this curriculum for our district. The things that the percentage, the sample, 36%, and I'm pretty sure, I wonder if we're including the elementary, and 38%, and one was 21% that you were talking about. I think that, other than the 21, I think they're good samples. I think you're getting a third of some of the teachers in our district. We have 2,500 staff teachers, professional teachers. I think it's a good sample to give us an indication that it's really being used by, we want to say, a conclusion that by our staff. However, I think the issues that some board members and I was some concerned about has nothing to do with the structure of it, the training of it, the materials that you provide or is part of the curriculum. I think what it is some of them are saying we don't get money for supplies. And probably they're coming from schools that are not here present, you see? And that is what they're talking about, and it has been a concern since 2007 because the same things keep on popping up. However, I understood, Dr. Montoya, at that time, and it's been for the next 5 years, is that principals are giving money. The school is giving money for those supplies. So actually, those people that are not getting any money should be talking to the principal. Where is it? The facilitator, the dean of instruction. Those are the ones that should be also monitoring that part of the curriculum in your campuses. There's so much the central office can do and provide all the supplies. So that is the key to the whole thing. The training is important. They provide excellent training because I've seen some of the training in the early years. I'm pretty sure it's gotten better. I don't go as much as often as I used to, but I know it's gotten better. It's got to. Sometimes what happens is some facilitators or trainees or the trainers do not get that training back to campus. There were some incidents, and this is our facts, ma'am. I'm not making up all these stories, Dr. Montoya. There were complaints from campuses that teachers would ask, what happened to that training? We would like to be trained. And one person said, oh, it's in my pickup. I'll give you the keys, go get it. That's a fact, ma'am. Well, the way I see it is, these people are not responsible for what happens out there unless you monitor very closely. And who's going to monitor our staff in our campus? See, that's the question. So that was a concern. Well, I do have one really serious concern, and perhaps we don't have that data. We know we started in 2007. How do we compare that to student success? See, what your survey shows is the staff is very happy with it, very confident with it. They're satisfied with all the training, and with a few exceptions. However, I'm looking at how successful have we been in 5 or 6 years that we've had this. That's the key, because any curriculum is measured by student success. Now, grant you that I don't know if previous planning and research, Pam, don't get after me, but have they collected that data during those years? So now that we have some benchmarks, we can compare. Can we go back and compare? Yes, you know, we were here at this level, now look at this level, and then compare it with the really stars, the actual scoring, and where do we have to go from there? See, now that's important in any survey. See, and that, I believe that's what the board is looking at. How successful have we been with this curriculum?
Dr. Atkinson,
thank you, sir.
He said, enlighten us. Ma'am, you can take a breather.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You did it well. You did it well. Dr. Atkinson?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt Dr. Smither. I was just going to give you, we had recent numbers of exactly by grade level.
But you see, we don't get that, Dr. Atkinson, until we come to the meeting, and
well, you had asked beforehand. When you had asked the question, I wasn't sure exactly if that would be relevant for you all. One of the things that we said actually at the board curriculum meeting this last month was, very frankly, you all were going to be very disappointed with the number of respondents. That was done in April and May. And again, we can't speak to, unfortunately, to what happened at that point. But, you know, we did go back and look at, as soon as the issue came up in July, that you wanted to see utilization reports. And if this was a River Deep or a Living with Science, you could run a report, and it would give you how many times a student has logged in, how many times a teacher has logged in. Unfortunately, because of their new platform that they had just converted to, that data is no longer available. And so, yeah, it is. It's critical. It's critical.
Well, because as Mr., if I could interject, it's exactly what we've been saying. And this board, you all talk about data-driven. Well, only you know the data. We don't. We never get it. And then we come up to approve these programs and monies.
Oh, it's working.
You know, how can I justify using that money when I don't get, and we don't get that data? And I think that's where we're all, I think in a nutshell, we can go round and round and round, and it's not ever going to change. But we've been saying, every conference we go to, everywhere we go to, it's about data. We've been saying that. I've been saying that since I came on board. I've been here 2 years, and the data is limited. So I think that, and now with the pressure of the monies and the programs, it's like, what drives our budget? What drives our budget? Is it the programs or is it the money?
Mrs. Garcia?
Yes. You know, when we get the test results and seeing where we're at certain schools and the stages, you know, that pretty much brings us a concern if it really is working or not. So if it's the lack of training, then how are we following up on it? If people are not just getting it, why aren't they getting it? So at the end of the day, you know, we've been telling people it's data. And if you prove yourself, it's going to be somewhere in data. So, I mean, and everywhere we just got back, and in Columbia University, that's what one of the topics was. You got to drive yourself with data.
Dr. Axel, we're getting a little repetitive here, but
No,
any
I'm sorry,
final comments?
just the example of 2 years ago, the district saw a huge rise in science scores, and you all had a district initiative for science, K-12. You spent a lot of money on your products. It was a program that could run those monthly reports. You saw double-digit gains across the board. Then we looked at the science scores in the last 2 years. If we look at utilization, it hasn't been utilized in the last 2 years. Great program, and I agree. Yeah, I think something that Dr. Saavedra had mentioned, the fidelity of the program, if it's not followed, it's not going to produce those results. So for the last 2 years, we can honestly say, based on data we're looking at right now, it wasn't followed for the last 2 years at the same rigor, at the same insistence that it was 2 years ago. Again, it's an explanation, not an excuse. It's just an explanation, just a bird's eye view on that science program. So it's the C-scope at this point. I know we had a few other people we're going to dismiss at this point, but the program is good. The framework is good. If we don't have the account, if we're not going to hold ourselves accountable for usage, it won't produce those results you want. And we are looking at being severely in need academically. And your model campuses right now are utilizing it, are ensuring that it's done on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Those that aren't are not performing at the same level. And that's the God honest truth.
If I may, Dr.
Mrs. Peña.
And this is what I get from teachers. They say the programs they have and the lessons are excellent, but you don't have the supplies. And I know everybody goes like this, and oh well. Here's my thing. Some kids are hands-on, and this has excellent lessons. But if you don't have the supplies for this hands-on, because if you teach a child the way the child learns, you're going to succeed. If you make him adapt to the way you teach, you're going to have a higher failure rate sometimes. So when you have these wonderful lessons that'll put it out in, black and white for this child to say, I get it. Then the teacher gets frustrated. She says, it's a wonderful lesson, but I don't have the supply for the 25 children they gave me. That's what, Dr. Montoya, I want to emphasize, that we make the supplies accessible to the teachers, and we make it a priority over everything else. And don't hear, we ran out of ink. We don't have enough of the squares today to give to you, or the blocks, or what we need. We need to give them what they need so we can get the results we're looking for. Because when we don't do that, how do we expect results, and how can we blame them? We cannot.
Again, we're just being repetitive. Mr. Aguilar, any final comments?
Final comment. I just want to address this to Dr. Montoya. If those are the issues, and you know who is not using, according to Dr. Aikens, so there's some campuses that are not using it, they're not performing well, why can we make them accountable? If those supplies are missing, make those people accountable. You have the resources to know what's happening in the campus. And this wouldn't be coming every other year when we have to approve money for Cisco. Yeah.
And again,
thank you, sir.
Very good point, Mr. Aguilar.
Just a quick comment. Again, one of the issues, obviously, is successful monitoring of these programs. And I think with our AAs and our principals, that's going to be one of our goals, that we focus on not just the monitoring, but as you said, that some of the supplies, for whatever reasons, are not getting to the right teachers on those campuses, and they're not being used because the distribution has become an issue. But that's one of our goals here, to ensure that we do that. And you're correct in that observation.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. Moving on to item, Mrs. Longoria.
You mentioned that you do your monitoring. Did I hear correctly that you do your monitoring online? Or do you go in person, campus by campus, or?
Dr. Atkinson?
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. Ms. Longoria, thank you. The monitoring that was mentioned is that we will be able to do both, is be able to monitor the usage online as well as be able to, part of the recommendations, I know they're not up there right now, but part of the recommendations is to have those weekly walkthroughs, those monthly monitoring sessions where we're able to pinpoint usage. And part of Dr. Montoya actually has a list of his own expectations that he had already given us as a team of making sure that we actually had 6-week reports that went to the board as well, so that you would have an idea of where we are with usage. It's important for the A's to know and the central office to know who's not utilizing that. And then that's where we would follow up with teachers. If they say, you know, we're not getting the supplies or we're not getting the materials, then it's up to us to be able to let the AAs know, you know, this is what's being reported to us. They're lacking those resources because everyone's given a budget based on their student numbers. So, you know, to hear, and I know one of the teachers said, you know, it's disappointing to hear they don't have resources when all they have to do is ask. And, you know, that would be something that would be a big concern for us, is to make sure that we're getting data directly from teachers. If they're saying they're not going to get them or they haven't been able to get them, then it's up to us to find out why not. Because we do have a portable full of replenishments, you know, for science alone, much less for other areas.
And how many specialists do we have?
Per grade level or per subject area?
Yeah, I think, subject area.
Okay, if you're looking at the core areas, we're looking at 20.
And so I think one of the issues that I've been hearing also is that they don't have time, you know, like to go to the trainings. And like this gentleman mentioned, I have to give up my Saturdays to go to the trainings. I think those trainings have a lot to do with the time, and for the planning also. I believe it takes a lot from the instructional time. So maybe that's another problem, another reason why the usage is very low. So you might want to revisit that. And also you say all you have to do is ask for supplies. Well, they do ask, but they do not come through, you know. They don't fulfill their requests. So that's another thing you need to monitor.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Longoria. Moving on to item 6, presentation of employee handbook for the 2012-2013 school year. Dr. Montoya.
Every year we come back to the board, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, to review the employee handbook. The handbook that you have in front of you is not in its final form yet, but we want to share some current information, not go item by item, but just an update. And Ms. Carmelita Rodriguez and Marisela Zarate will help present from there.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, administration, and audience. What we have left.
What are the highlights?
Today we have a presentation, as Dr. Montoya said, of our employee handbook. Every year, TASB sends us an employee model handbook, and this year we got it late May, and we use that employee handbook we mirror it with our district handbook. And we go page by page, line by line, and we try to do our very best to adapt any changes, because that's what it's for, that's what that model handbook is for us to utilize it in the best interest of our district. So today I have out of the 95 pages that we have in our handbook, there's about 18 pages that had some changes, some new additions, and then we deleted some items. We will begin with, of course, our very first page. We had to adjust some on our Board of Trustees, some changes that were there. And I'm going to try to go through it quite quickly, because I know unless you want me to discuss anything in particular, but we start with and you do have the draft copy in front of you, but I thought it would be easier to put up just the pages with changes.
If you want, ma'am, we could just start off with questions. We can ask them anyway, whether you present or not.
That would make my presentation much easier.
Mrs. Longoria?
Okay, thank you. I noticed under the health insurance benefits, page 34 of 102. It's
right here. This is page 34.
Okay. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth paragraph where it says dependents insurance, the eligibility dependents. If you want to insure your eligible dependents, that you may make a request in writing
Are you looking at the area that's not highlighted? If you do not have a dependent?
Right, it's not highlighted.
Okay.
That's why I just want to point out something
Yes,
there
ma'am.
that might need to be added
Okay.
on. It says additional premium is required, and that all you have to do is receive a request in writing. However, is that all you need, just a request in writing to include these individuals or as dependents? Can you request more proof of a relationship or something like that? Like proof of a birth certificate, like they're claiming that it's their son, or?
I'm sure they need to go to employee benefits. We actually had insurance and employee benefits look at the employee model, the handbook that they sent us from TASB, and they did these actual changes from their department and submitted it to us in HR. But I can definitely take your question back, Ms. Longoria, and make sure that we have them. I don't think there's anyone here.
It sounds like that would be up to the vendor, not to us.
Yes.
No, because it falls under us. I mean, we're self-insured and saying,
right.
Your husband, you would have your husband and your children.
Right.
So just some kind of a more verification to verify that they are relatives.
Actual
actual relatives or
dependents, children or spouses. I do understand, and we'll take that. I'm sure that is something they look at carefully, but I will make sure and take it to Ms. Tarigny, who is the interim administrator there, and the gentleman, the new administrator.
Can I ask all my questions right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there are not very many. And on page 36, under the termination of group coverage, at the first sentence, you scratched out, it says offered in policies DEC, you scratched out legal and local. Is there a reason why you scratched that out? Page 36, under termination
yes,
of group coverage.
It was.
And this one is highlighted.
It was just a recommendation, ma'am.
But it doesn't make sense. You need to refer to either legal or local. Yeah. Or both.
And we can leave it. It's one or the other, and it was taken off from the committee that met with HR, but we'll go ahead and put it back.
From the committee or TASB?
Well, TASB, and then we met as a committee, because they give the recommendations, and then we meet as a group. HR met together.
Okay. All righty. And one more. Hold on. On page 61, under reports to State Board of Educators Certification, SBEC, Texas Education Agency, you deleted that whole section? No, hold on. I know, not the whole section. Let me correct that. You deleted SBEC.
Yes.
Because you do report to TEA. However, on the other pages, like on page 63 and some other pages, it's where it says all district employees should perform their duties in accordance with state law, and then any alleged incidents should be reported to SBEC no later than the 7th day. So I would feel better if you left SBEC just, in there too, if this is the way it is. Why delete it? Because you do report it to TA, however, you do have to report it to SBEC as well, because that's the teaching certification.
And on page 60, we have what we added. Reports to Texas Education Agency. We added that entire section there, and it's pretty much. And then we deleted that because it's almost in the same.
Right, but in the other pages, you still mention SBEC, to report to SBEC.
In other words, just add SBEC.
I would feel more comfortable leaving it the way it was.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. We will do that.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
And I have
Peña.
on page 60.
Leave 61.
On your highlighted, I know that this is just a draft, but it might get missed. Report to Texas Education Agency. The first paragraph. Look at the second line. The word determination. If you can, in the book, I don't know.
Yes, ma'am, and it's already corrected on our.
Okay, you'll fix that.
We already corrected it. Yes,
no
ma'am.
Problem.
It is a typo.
Board?
I have a.
Mrs. Garcia.
This is given to every employee of the district? Am I correct?
This is online, and we give copies as requested. And they receive an acknowledgement form that they are aware that the principals presented on campus to the employees, and they have an which you see the acknowledgement form that they sign in the front of the handbook. Every employee acknowledges that they have seen and are aware that it is online.
And who follows up to make sure that every employee has acknowledged to it?
The administration and our specialists in HR, they've been going to the campuses also to present. And then principals will make sure that they have these on file.
Because this is basically, it's got policies.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have a serious concern when all of a sudden an employee says, I don't know, or they don't follow. Policies are policies, and they're legal and local. So I don't know, this is something that I've heard before in the past from some of my colleagues, is that I know that in the outside world, in the corporate companies, they even ask you to see videos to make sure that, and that's because of legal issues that they see ahead. They make sure that every employee signs off on the policy manual and that they've read it or viewed it and that they agree to it. So I'm just saying that it is very imperative, Dr. Montoya, that effective this year, I don't know if it's been done before in the past or not, but that every employee signs off and that it goes into their personal file, because for the protection of the district also as well. I mean, we've been hit with so many things that it's unbelievable. So please make a note of that.
Mr. Aguilar?
Yes, I recall that when I was working, each of us had a handbook given to us and signed for it. And I don't know why that practice
either stopped
or what happened, because you can get somebody to sign, yes, I know it's online. Have they read it?
We're going green.
Have they read it? Have they read it?
Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's the main thing.
And where's the database of that, all those documents that were received and that they've been acknowledged? That's my question, to make sure that there's an acknowledgement of every single employee in the district.
Yes, ma'am, and we will.
I'm okay with the acknowledgement, but not with printing one for every employee.
I know you want to go green, sir. Don't worry.
They could insert, if I may. I know that in some of the handbooks, they have a sheet inserted that they agree with all that is there, and then they sign it. So that could be one last sheet where they print out just that last sheet, sign it, and give it to the administrator. Then the administrator turns it into the central office.
Thank you very much. Anything new?
No, I was just wondering, there are 53 campuses. What can one handbook be in one in each campus? Accessible at teacher's lounge where they can read it.
Or two
or three.
In case one gets lost. Yeah.
Really? And then sign it right there in your, when you have your staff development. There's one in there. Be sure you read it.
They acknowledge, they read it, and that's it.
Great points. Thank you all very much. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 7, presentation of the BISD financial report for period ending May 31st, 2012. Dr. Montoya.
Again, this is a financial report that we share with the board, and you do have a copy of it. If there's any questions.
Any questions come from the board? If not, we move on to item 8, presentation of the BISD financial report for period ending June 30th, 2012. Dr. Montoya.
Again, this is a similar thing. It is presented on the cash basis and does not reflect the year-end accruals or adjustments, but it is an update report. If you have any questions.
Comments or questions from the board? If not, we move on to item 9, presentation of the BISD quarterly investment report for the period ended June 30th, 2012. Any comments or questions from the board?
We still have the same
If not, we move on to item 10, presentation of the BISD quarterly consultant report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2011-2012. Comment or questions from the board?
Yeah.
Mrs. Presas?
I believe we don't have where are we at on that? Well, we're going to have a presentation of, because we don't have a consultant, do we? So we don't consult with anybody.
I'm sorry.
Have we?
Do you understand the question, Dr. Montoya?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about something else. I'm sorry.
Okay, now we move on to item 11. Presentation of the reporting of fees paid to cooperatives, including memberships, management, and transaction fees for fiscal year 2012-2013. Any comments or questions from the board? Now we move on to item 12, presentation of the top 2 ranked financial advisory firms. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, this is our 2 finalist groups that want to do a brief presentation to the board. I do ask the board, again, it becomes very important because one of the issues that we asked all of our financial advisory firms several board meetings ago was to assist the district in trying to find more revenue. You know, we're not hiring firms anymore to build facilities or sell bonds or anything like that. What we're looking at now is trying to financial resources, because as you all budget, and all of the presenters had some plans, but at this time, Mr. Garcia, if you'll go ahead and begin.
Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo. Just to a real brief pre-opening statements here. Remember that when we started, we actually sent out proposals to 17 different financial advisors. Back in, I believe it was April, 6 of them responded to our request for proposals. 4 of them actually did reports presented to the board in a budget committee meeting. And now what we have done, we have come and ranked the top 2 firms, and we're going to ask them to each one make a 10-minute presentation. Again, Ms. Rosie Pena will be introducing them and giving the rules of the presentation. Ms. Pena?
Ms. Pena?
Thank you. Dr. Board members, tonight we have the final phase of the RFP process. The administration has formed a committee and ranked, and the 2 presenters that are present tonight are top 2 ranked. Each has drawn for presentation places. The presentation allotted time is 10 minutes, 3 for presentation and 7 for question and answer. The firm that is not presenting will be remain in my office until that time that it is their turn to present. Also, please be reminded that the questions asked must be related to their presentation, and discussion and questions relating to fees are not allowed at this time. The first presenter for tonight is a firm of M.R. Beal and Company. M.R. Beal and Company.
And we're asking the other firm to step out, and we've got the television and sound off outside. And who's our timekeeper? Mr. Michel? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. My name is Carlos Sharpless. I am representing M.R. Beal. As you have in front of you a copy of the presentation that we made previously to the board, I would actually ask you to turn your attention only to slide 3, since we have 3 minutes to sort of go over what it is that we can do for the district. And when we presented to the board about 3 or 4 months ago, I had with me Richard Acosta, who is my colleague that I have worked with for 10 years. And Richard and I have compiled a fairly strong record in working with a full range of school districts. We've worked with small and large districts. We've also worked with property poor districts. And you have a list on page 3 in the upper right-hand quadrant of a number of the school districts that we've worked with, like Dallas ISD, Houston ISD, San Antonio ISD, South San ISD, Northside ISD, Judson, Harlandale, Lake Travis ISD, and Taylor ISD. We've worked with a number of these clients as a senior manager and as an underwriter, and we have a very small and very limited financial advisory practice, which is what we're here to talk about tonight. The reason we have a small practice is that we've been very selective in the clients that we take on, and we focus primarily with districts that have financial problems or have turnaround situations. as a firm and as two practicing investment bankers, we have a transformational approach to the business. So we're not one of the largest financial advisory firms. We're not one of the biggest firms in Texas, but we focus very strongly on seeking financial solutions for districts. And we also focus strongly on thinking outside the box, looking for opportunities that others have overlooked. And we really sort of believe in educating our clients and empowering them. And so we develop proprietary models that we turn over to our clients to allow them to run their own debt simulations and tax rate analyses. For example, in our presentation, when we met with the board for the first round of presentations, we identified the fact that the district has the ability to raise the M&O tax rate to $1.04 without an election. And in addition, we suggested that the district might consider a tax rollback election to raise the M&O tax rate. Now, I realize that raising taxes is a difficult thing from a perspective of a policymaker, but if you look at the district's situation and the fact that they have recently been downgraded by rating agencies, recently by Moody's in May and by Fitch, which gave it a negative outlook. One of the real problems with the district is that it's got a very large recent reductions in the general fund balance. It has a strong tax base. It has very low debt. And so really the debt side of the balance sheet is not the district's problem. It's really trying to find ways to increase M&O taxes and increase revenues from the state. Now, we have a track record of improving clients' financial positions. We have a track record of improving ratings and doing transactions that have been done for the first time. For example, with South San ISD in 2004, when there was enabling legislation, we found a way for them to basically issue bonds and fund with capitalized interest some tax increases that they were facing and allowing them to keep taxes low. Harlandale ISD is a case where a district that was in severe financial problems had was facing the possibility of being closed down by the TEA or maybe taken over by another district. And we developed a very comprehensive sort of transformational financial plan to address their shortfalls, to restructure their debt, and we restored the district to financial health. In addition, we served as financial advisors to San Antonio ISD, guided them through their $600 million election, and issued 2 large series of bonds for them totaling about $250 million. One of the things that we did there, Richard is a very, I guess, knows his way around TEA very well. We crafted San Antonio's appeal for an exception to the PSF guarantee program that allowed not only San Antonio but to take advantage of the Build America bond program before it expired at the end of 2010. So, in a sense, I think what we bring to the district is a fresh approach, a fresh outlook, and a couple of bankers who are willing to roll up their sleeves and sit down with staff and the board and figure out what it is that needs to be done in order to right the ship financially. And with that, I'll leave it open for questions, I understand.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Garcia?
Mr. Sharpless, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you, what would you say got us into this point financially?
Well, from the financial perspective, what you should recognize is that you have a very low INS tax rate. You have up to 50 cents on INS taxes that can be levied, and yours is very low. It's around 7 cents. But the main criticism that the rating agencies have offered is that you've used a lot of general fund draws to build capital projects. So I think if you look at your debt structure, you have about $40 million in leases outstanding, which are non-callable and privately placed, and those have been funded on the M&O side rather than on the INS side. And if there were a way to recharacterize that debt to the M&O side, you might be able to generate some savings there and move the
money elsewhere we need it.
But those those bonds are non-callable, and you do get federal subsidies. It's it's going to take some rolling up the sleeves and really getting into the numbers.
What do you think about our fund balance at this point? Were you familiar with our fund balance?
Well, what I've noticed is that you've taken some general fund draws. It's been reduced the last 2 or 3 years consecutively.
Do you know more or less a figure?
I want to say it's in the I don't remember, but I'd say 200 million, something like that.
Okay. Well, I had seen that, I think, in a report somewhere, that it's a high number. How do you feel about our developing a comprehensive and financial plan for this district, being that we find ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves in? Because our rating dropped.
Right. Well, I think from the perspective of you sort of have to take a long-term outlook and develop a plan of finance that envisions potential new bond issues if you think that's the direction the school is going at some point in time in the future. Existing bond issues, what can be done to refinance and perhaps save money on that side. The way your bonds are structured right now, you have some opportunities to refinance, I think in 2015, 2016. Because interest rates are so low right now, there might be some opportunities to refinance some of those bonds today using sort of out of the sort of leading edge approaches, like maybe using taxable bonds instead of tax exempt bonds. We're looking at precisely that kind of opportunity with one of our districts. And we have a request in the TEA to see if that is acceptable to them. But you know what we did with San Antonio ISD, for example, was they had some estimates from their previous advisor on what they thought their bonding capacity was. They also had a fairly large wish list of projects that encompassed not only the $600 million that they passed in the bond referendum, but almost double that. We came up with a comprehensive capacity analysis of how many bonds they could support with their current tax base and their current growth, and based on their enrollment projections, and then structured a number of issues to address immediate capital needs, to address refinance, and ended up basically working with the board and the community to get the bond passed. But from what I see right now is you don't have a lot of bond transactions on the table. You don't have new money requirements. You really need to focus on trying to find ways to move your M&O tax rate up or to generate more revenues on the M&O side.
Okay, but before we run out of time, I'd like other members to also have an opportunity to ask questions because we're on a time clock here. I'd like to ask one question. It's both of you the same question, so this is by no means directed at you specifically.
Sure.
You know, as trustees, our best to be good gatekeepers of the district, and I believe firmly that we're all trying to do that. Sometimes we can do that very effectively because we have expertise in whatever discipline in question. Sometimes we are purblind of the discipline in question. So that being the case, what governing bodies or what type of watchdogs do you have in your industry that holds you accountable in the event that we really are unable to detect, you know, your business practices? Who governs you? Who watches you? Who keeps you in line?
At a national level, we have FINRA, which is the Financial Industry National Regulatory Authority. We also have a self-regulatory organization called the MSRB, which is the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. And then obviously here in Texas, we're all registered with the State Securities Commission, and most of the bankers that you deal with should be registered with the SEC. So I have 4 securities licenses, principal.
Wow.
Do you have any reprimands from any of them?
Pardon me?
Do you have any reprimands from any of them?
I have no reprimands, no,
Thank
sir.
you. Any other questions from the board?
Way to go. Well, I have one more. We still have
Mrs.
some time.
Garcia?
Thank you, sir. I knew you had to put yours in there. On another note, how often would you communicate with our CFO in regards to advice and guiding him and reports that you would to pull out?
Well, depending on how the board saw our role, I think we should, at a minimum, meet once a month and be present at any board meeting that requires bond or investment advice where the board sees fit.
Okay. No, that was my question.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mrs. Peña?
Yes, sir. Our next presenter is the firm of Estrada and Hinojosa, and we're going to give him a little bit of time to walk back from my office.
I was hoping they'd be ready.
Good evening. Noé Hinojosa with Estrada Hinojosa and Company, and my partner, Dr. Miguel de los Santos, with our firm in Estrada Hinojosa here in the Valley. Thank you again for the opportunity to come before you. We commend the staff for the process and budget committee for allowing us to come to you, not one time, but a second time here before you, the board. My partner and I, Bob Estrada, been around for about 20 years. We both from Brownsville. When I was a kid, I remember going by to Hannah and Pace. So I'm a real, I guess you could say, one of the products of this school district here. I didn't graduate from Brownsville ISD, but I went to Pan American School up the road in Kingsville. I want to tell you that we've been here since about 2000, 2001. We take our jobs very seriously. We've been very humbled and flattered to represent this committee for many, many years. And I think that our record speaks for itself. If you go to page 6, you'll see a little, basically, a tab or a table there of our rankings. This is not compiled by us. It's compiled by industry statisticians in New York. And it pretty much shows you that our firm is #3 financial advisor in Texas. It's a firm that was built with a lot of hard work. I believe we have offices in Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Miguel is here in the Valley to be of assistance to any of the school districts that we represent. Back in 01, we came here with an idea to refinance some debt. And I think when I hear Dr. Montoya asking us or asking financial advisors to bring to you ideas on how to bring more revenue, I think it's fair to say that for school districts across Texas, you know, the roads are pretty narrow. Either you get M&O tax or INX tax, and then from time to time, if you're building facilities, the federal government helps you out some, and TEA, without them, we can't do very much. What's important for you all to note and consider, I think, about raising more revenues is the fact that the state allows you to collect up to 104. I don't think it would be any news by me standing here before you and telling you that you are at 102. And 2 cents, 2 additional cents in your M&O tax rate would raise at least another $2.5 million or $3 million from the state for each $1 million you raise. So 1 penny is about $500,000. 2 pennies is $1 million. So there's money there that you could be getting from the state, but by virtue of the fact that you're 102 and not 104, you're leaving some money on the table. Second thing that you could be considering doing is that if you don't want to raise the tax rate, the M&O tax rate from 102 to 104, leave the total tax rate alone. The total tax rate today at BISD is 109. You collect 102 for M&O, you collect 7 cents for INS or the payment of debt service. If you shift out of the 7 cents, 2 cents over the M&O and make the M&O 104 and make the INS 5 cents, you're at 109. By going from 102 to the 104, you can make not only the local levy, but possibly another $1 million of additional revenues. So that's something I believe that the staff has shared with you, or maybe a little bit more than that. Then, if you go over to after page 15 and something a more minor scale, there are some bonds that the school district currently has outstanding, about 170 plus. And basically out of that 170 plus, there's about $85 million that you can currently refinance, and the rates are reflected on the third page there of that tab, where basically the average coupon today is about 5%. You can refinance those bonds for about 2.5%. That could get you about $450,000 of annual savings between 14 through 27. Outside of that, we can also bring to you an idea that we've offered to some of our clients who have been exposed to disaster concerns. Whenever a school district is exposed to an act of God like a hurricane, and you're able to account for expenses attributed to having to make repairs, we've done with some of our school districts, where you can go out there and reallocate the tax rate of the GO debt over to the M&O side. And the state will recognize you bringing the tax rate over to the M&O side and actually provide you disaster relief. We've done that. Dr. De Los Santos was very instrumental in helping a few school districts here in the Valley. We can do some research for you if, in fact, when Hurricane Dolly was here or any other events have occurred, where we may be able to get some of those revenues. And then the last item is basically minuscule. We've done, I believe, 5 financings for you on the M&O side, these revenue bonds. Back in 2010, we did some financings, and in 2009, you pay it for those out of the M&O side. If you were to have a bond referendum to make those bonds general obligation bonds, you would collect, instead of collecting $750,000 annually out of the M&O tax rate, you would shift that liability over to the INS side, thus providing relief on the M&O and being able to, if you so wish, be able to collect that revenue for the M&O for the general fund budget. So those are the 5 issues. I'll stop right here and entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask you the question, then I'll yield the floor to Mrs. Garcia.
Thank you, sir.
I'm asking the same question I asked your competitor, so by no means is it directed at you. You know, as trustees, we try our best to be good gatekeepers and try to look out for the best of the district. Sometimes it's easy for us to do that because we have expertise in whatever discipline in question. However, sometimes it's the opposite, and we're blind of the business practices of the discipline in question. That being the case, who governs you, who watches you, who keeps you in compliance in your industry?
Well, we've been around 20 years. Thank you, Mr. President, for asking that question. We actually
I didn't ask it, sir. It was Dr.
Mr. President. I didn't say Mr. President. I'm sorry.
You have the floor, sir.
I'm sorry. Basically, we're governed by the Securities Exchange Commission. We actually, my partner, Bob Estrada, served as chairman of the ethics board called the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board based in Washington, D.C. I've been on the global board of our industry called SIFMA, where basically we are the think tank for the interest of not only the industry's interest, but also those of borrowers. And we're headquartered in New York. So the SEC governs us. We are licensed practitioners by FINRA, and you know, we're required as a broker-dealer. I'm an owner. I'm the majority shareholder of this company. I have 46 people that work for us. Basically, I'm required to take continuing education literally on a biannual basis.
Great. And the second part of my question, again, I'm asking the same question.
Please.
Have you received any reprimands by any of these entities that govern you and keep you in compliance?
About 3 weeks ago, we received a $10,000 fine by the by FINRA for basically failure to submit documents on a given time to one of the national repositories, agencies.
So basically, it was a form that you didn't submit on time?
It was an oversight, administrative oversight by one of our individuals that had spent 15 years with us. So.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Garcia?
The oversights. Okay, here I go with my questions. I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked the other company, sir. What got us into this point of where, because I'm sure you realize that our ratings dropped, sir, correct?
You were actually downgraded by Moody's from a AA2, I believe, to a AA3.
What got us there, sir?
I think 4 years of continual drops in fund balance, according to the report.
But was that due to construction? What was the expenses that we have?
I think, as I believe we have discussed internally, I believe that the school district keeps a savings account, as we refer as fund balance, on your operating reports or on your operating balances, operating budget, and basically that fund balance has been drawn upon for 4 consecutive years. So whenever you get a downgrade, you don't get a downgrade from 1 year to the next because you had an extraordinary withdrawal on that fund balance. It's over the series of years. So you went from a AA2 to a AA3. I may add that Standard & Poor's rates you at an A+. I may also add that Fitch, which rates you at a AA, has put you a negative credit watch. They will put you down to a AA- if you were to be downgraded. But I think they all three recognize very favorably the fact that despite the structural drops in your fund balance, that the school district's in good financial shape.
What do you think about our own fund balance right now, sir?
I think your fund balance
for the public.
Yeah.
You were our financial advisor, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And just for the record, what do you think about our fund balance? Because you were aware of it, that it was a hefty fund balance.
I think it's recognized in the rating report that the fund balance was a very healthy fund balance, and it has dropped. Is the trend going? Let's just assume, and I'm going to assume for purposes because I was not the lead banker involved in this account, but my partners had shared with me that at one time fund balances here were about 40 or 45% of operating expenditures, probably more. So you forgive me for not knowing the facts. But when you were at 40 to 45%, you went from that level to about 25%, which I believe that's where you are. You're about 20 to 25% of current operating expenditures. There are many cities. In fact, we represent the city of Brownsville. I represent the public utility company here in town. Some of these political subdivisions have fund balances at 20 to 25%, but they've kept them at those levels in a very consistent basis. What caused you to drop, to have the rating revisited and be downgraded, was the fact that you went downward. So what they are hoping and being encouraged is that the district would do everything in its power to prevent from fund balance from continuing to go on downward. That's what they said. That's what their observations were.
Okay. You know, you said that to forgive you about not knowing the facts of the district, sir. It bothers me, sir, because a district this big, you should have the facts.
Mrs. Please stick to the same questions you asked.
How do you feel about developing a comprehensive financial plan that will get us out of the debt that we have, sir?
Well, the debt, as it is known in Texas for school district, you know, it's almost, and Dr. De Los Santos, you've been superintendent of schools in many places, and he'll tell you as we go about advocating interests of many schools around the state, the fact is that the way public funding is for schools, it is especially for school districts that have a disadvantage in their ability to raise revenues by lack of property values, is that they literally induce you to borrow money to be able to make improvements to projects, to improvements to schools. You got to have elementary schools. You got to have junior highs and high schools. So you have to incur that debt. I think from our perspective, we've been very diligent in ensuring that whatever we have borrowed on your behalf, or whatever we have assisted you in borrowing on your behalf, is that the debt at least is at par with the life expectancy of those assets. And I think everything that we've done for you has, is reflected on those results.
Sir, how often would you meet with our staff in regards to the finances?
I think my people were meeting with your staff at least.
Sir, I'm asking if we were to continue, not in the past. I'm asking
sorry,
like
I didn't
how.
Understand. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me ask you the question.
Please.
How often would you communicate with our CFO if you were to be the financial advisor?
As often as necessary. If it's, we're open 24/7. I open my cell phones for anybody. You can go to my website. You literally, the only thing you don't find is my home number. But we are in the business of helping our clients daily.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to item 13, board calendars. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, very quickly, tomorrow at 6 o'clock at Rivera High School, we have a back-to-school rally for the PACE Porter Veterans Clusters, and we invite the board and others. Thursday, the next day, August 23rd, we have Hannah, Lopez, and Rivera back-to-school rallies. And just a quick reminder, next Monday, the 27th, school begins. Our students arrive. And also on August 30th at 7, which is Thursday, that is our summer graduation at Rivera High School. And that's it, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. The next item on the agenda is a public comment period. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments. Our first speaker, Laura Marquez, regards to 21st Century and award. Laura Marquez.
Yes, sir. Probably left.
Not in. Okay, our next speaker, Ruben Peña and Riley Morgan, request to register high school students to vote. Mr. Peña.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Dr. Montoya. We're here with the League of Women Voters, and I'm a proud member of that organization as well. We're here to request a very simple thing. First of all, let me congratulate you on your patience and diligence this evening. Very interesting presentations, I might add. I'd like to know where my tax dollars are going. Right?
But we're limited to the questions, sir.
I know you are.
Unfortunately.
What the League of Women Voters is going to be requesting is for assistance to allow volunteers from the League to go on the high school campuses to register students that are eligible to be registered to vote so they'll be able to vote in November. That is the short one. I've got a little, what happened? Oh, did I stick it in here? I stuck it in my back pocket. No, I didn't. No. Oh, well. We've got a, there it is. We've got a little pamphlet that I'm going to, we only have one, so I'm going to let Morgan kind of give you a little bit more background while I give it to you.
Yeah. While he's passing that out, what it is the League of Women Voters in Texas have chosen this area to be one of 4 in the state to receive this booklet. It is a booklet that they're wanting to provide easy information, understandable information to students so that they know why they want to register to vote, why it's important to vote, and that gives their Bill of Rights of Voters and so forth. The September 20, what's the date? September 25th, I believe, is the National Voter Registration Day. So we don't have a whole lot of time, and I've forgotten the exact date that is the last day to register to vote, to be able to vote in the coming election. But it's soon. We don't have very much time. So we want to get as many youngsters involved in this process that we are so proud to be able to have, is to vote. And that's what we want to do. We just want to be able, we will use our volunteers. I'm a registered deputy. I can register people to vote. Many of our members are, not all of them are, but we have volunteers that will help us. And we'd love to be able to do all of the high schools, but that's a fantastic amount of work. So at the minimum, we would like to be able to access 3 of the schools, and that would be your choice. And we really appreciate any support that you can give us.
We're short. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Patrick Hammis, doing the right thing.
Good evening, Board President Escobedo, members of the board, Dr. Montoya. My name is Patrick Hammis. I am the president of the Association of Brownsville Educators. Today, since this is the kickoff of the school year, I'd like to talk to you about the Association of Brownsville Educators. We are part of 3 organizations. Our national organization is the National Education Association. 3 million members, the largest education union, our largest union in the world. Our state affiliate is the Texas State Teachers Association, and here in Brownsville we are the Association of Brownsville Educators, AOBE, 4,200 members strong. We are the largest local in the state of Texas. We are also the only organization that represents all employees. We represent teachers, We represent ESPs, which are your classified, and we also have administrators as members. Our goal for this year is social justice. I talked to you all at the Budget Committee meeting. We very strongly believe that any employee, whether they work in this building, in a campus, or in a department, that when they come to work and put in the hours, that they should be treated with dignity and respect. We believe that all workers should be paid a competitive wage, and going according to the budget process and their own report from TASB, we are significantly below market in several areas. We believe that your classified employees should be paid a living wage, which is $12.18 an hour for Cameron County for a family of 4 living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We believe that nobody in this district, the largest employee south of San Antonio, the educational leader for South Texas, should be paid at the poverty level, which is $9.18 an hour, and is $23,050 for a family of 4. And we have employees being paid at the poverty level. We also expect all employees to be treated with the same discipline policy. Currently, you have 2 different ones, one for that is policy for certified, and then one that is administrative guidelines for classified. The district has improved in this regard, but until policy for all and treatment for all is the same, it is still lacking. Tonight you spoke about policy for all employees and re-signing for employee and having it placed in our personnel folders. That's all good and fine. Do we have policy in Spanish? To my knowledge, the answer is no. We have many employees who speak only Spanish. You're going to have to come up with policy manuals for those employees. We look forward to working with administration. We count on being a good partner with administration and with the school board. Our goals are the same: a quality public education for every student. That's our vision statement. That's in our vision statement. We know that we've had difficult times. We need to come together. We need to work together. We are the Association of Brownsville Educators. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Joe Fuentes, Employee Benefits.
Hello, good evening, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, the board members. As Mr. Ham has talked about, we are kicking off the campaign for social justice. And in regards to the social campaign, AOBE is also concerned with the summer supplemental duties that have not received compensation yet, even though they finished fulfilling their obligations and duties for the school district and the children over 45 days ago. Finally, in regards to the fund balance is crucial to BISD, its employees, its mission, and most importantly, its students. A concern for AOBE is that the fund balance might be used to settle administration businesses or concerns when A, teachers have not had a raise in 2 years, B, classified employees haven't had a raise in 4 years, administration, our lovely principals, 7 years. AOBE believes this would not be fair. This is unfair for, well, obviously its employees and most importantly, its students and community. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Coach Joe, and the subject, Mr. Johnny Cavazos. Coach Joe, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the board, administration, Mr. Superintendent, colleagues. I come here before you something that happened in the past. I came before a previous board when I was an employee of the district, and at that time I asked and got permission by the board to establish a Hall of Honor at the stadium for people that would give money, a substantial amount of money for scholarship for student athletes. At that time the board approved it, and as I walked from the podium, I remember clearly a man sitting in the audience, Mr. Cavazos, winking at me and telling me, "Don't worry, I'll get you there." I didn't know what he meant by that, but the next day he came in with a $25,000 check, which is in BISD's funds right now, and that amount has he raised that amount to $250,000 to $300,000 that is there for student athletes. And I humbly request of you to honor that commitment for us to put a distinguished honor there for Johnny and Nena Cavazos Foundation to be placed next to Earl Sams. That was the thought behind it, and I respectfully ask you all to approve and make that commitment in honor of Mr. Cavazos, who passed away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach, and our condolences to the Cavazos family on their recent loss. Moving on to item 9, closed meetings pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 et sec. Board goes to closed session to hear grievances. The board reconvenes after closed session. Moving on to item 16, board action level 3 grievance 001/12-13, Kenneth J. League. I'll open the floor for a motion. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? The item dies for lack of a motion. For item 17, I will be abstaining, so I will yield the floor to our Vice President Longoria.
Yes. Item number 17, board action on level 3 grievance number 004/12-13, Sandra Powers. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to grant the remedy that Ms. Sandra Powers is seeking.
I'll second that motion. The way you stated it.
Would you please repeat the motion, ma'am?
My motion is to grant the remedy that Ms. Sandra Powers is seeking at the level 2.
I second that motion.
All in favor? All against? It's 3-2, 1 abstain. Dr. Escobedo abstained.
Four.
Okay, I'm sorry. 4. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Longoria. Moving on to item 19, recommend approval of 2012-2013 employee compensation plan. I'll open the floor. For discussion, Mrs. Peña.
Yes.
And again, I just will remind my colleagues this has been discussed numerous times, so let's not have to go through it page by page again, Mrs. Peña.
Yes, and I'll try to make this as short as possible and maybe condense it so we can move on. But I'd like to move that we table this compensation plan because there's some things on here that aren't clear, and I understand once we approve it, we can't change. So, for example, on page 37, and my colleagues will turn to that page with me, where it shows that all employees get the $600 per semester in November and May. That's not clear to me because that's a permanent, and every year you get it. That's okay with me. But that's what administrator told me. That's not what they meant. So that's not what is in black and white. So for that reason, I'd like to move to table this because I have an issue with that.
We're still in discussion. I'm not taking. I'm putting the floor for a motion.
37.
Any other discussion?
No, I just want to ask Ms. Peña, did you go over and it was not what we had agreed and recommended?
The way it's written, sir, it's an every year occurrence. It's going to be permanent. And I'm okay.
I'm saying what you're concerned about.
Yes, that's what I'm concerned
about. It was never corrected, or?
No, it's not corrected on here.
I'm kind of disappointed at that. Yeah.
I have another on page 4, and we went over this at our budget meeting. It's on the fine arts, and I would just like a statement there in either an asterisk or in parentheses or whatever, because otherwise we're going to come back to this issue where it says to refer to at the very bottom on the elementary, all of it, the whole fine arts guidelines for staffing. Because as we've mentioned, Dr. Rendon is the only one who has provided us with the stats and the plan and everything, to refer to the Fine Arts Department their 5-year plan. Otherwise, if we don't say for them to refer to the plan that she has, we're going to go back where positions are eliminated and no discussion is made, and so kids suffer for that.
Dr. Montoya, are you okay with that?
Yes, and I met with Dr. Rendon at length this week, and we did come up with a very good, viable 5-year plan. We also shared it with our CFO, and I think it's implementable. So the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay, if you're okay with it, I am. But I do not want to table this again. This has been on the floating around for a long time now. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, if I need to clarify.
Mr. Garcia has the floor.
Dr. Montoya, if I may, 2 points of clarification. One, going back to page 37, this is exactly how it has been presented in all the other times. To clarify Mr. Aguilar's question, the question that came up today has not come up before. That's one point. The second point is, once that you have approved this compensation plan, you can always do amendments. It's not that once you approve it, you can never change it. And to address Ms. Peña's question on the this is a $1,200 one-time stipend, and the way it's broken up here, it's $600 per semester, payable in November and May. We've had numerous conversations and discussions on it. I have taken her recommendation, and I'm going to discuss it with Dr. Montoya and our in-house counsel to see if we can add additional verbiage for clarification purposes. And the clarification verbiage that we're talking about, it's one-time supplement, may continue if funds are available. That's the suggestion that we talked about. I need to discuss it with Dr. Montoya, clear it through our staff attorney, and if that is so, then we'll add it. But once again, if you approve this tonight, it can always be amended.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Any new discussions, Ms. Peña?
Yes, I'd like to, on page 11, I would like to, on pay grade 5, I noticed that the supervisor for athletics for special children and athletics for middle school is being stricken from that pay grade. I'd like that to be reinstated.
Mr. Garcia, do you have a problem with that?
Based on tonight's action and vote.
And that's in line with the decision the board made this evening. So I think, Mr. Garcia, we go from there.
With that said, do I have a motion to approve item 19? I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Have a second, Mr. Colunga. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed was who? Dr. Saavedra, Mrs. Peña, Mrs. Longoria. Okay. So, Dr. Montoya, it got voted down, so now what?
We just leave it as is, but again, we have to recognize what the decision was on that grievance, and we'll just proceed from there.
Thank you. Moving on to item 26, recommend approval of the resolution number 006/1213
Am I clarify something, please?
for the Brownsville Independent School District. Mrs. Peña?
Yes, I noticed that we're going to leave it as is, but the stipend, Dr. Montoya, for the employees has to be part of the compensation plan before the stipend can be given. So,
why don't we just?
So that's why I'm asking for it to be tabled or to be brought back when the corrections are made. This is not a dead item the way I see it. We're holding to our present compensation plan, and we are still going to wait for the changes and for administration to bring it back in a manner that will satisfy the needs of the district and of our employees.
Mr. Garcia?
Dr. Montoya, if I may, just for clarification purposes, I want to make absolutely sure of a couple of things. One, if we're tabling it, right now it's if you're going to consider now to table, because it's been voted down, we're working with the previous compensation plan, which again, from my perspective, there's no problem. We've had this discussion before as to how the extra duty pay is going to be paid. I've gone through the minutes, we've researched the minutes. You have not taken any board action to change the compensation pay going for extra duty, so we're reverting, just for the record, back to the $20. Once we get everything approved, then we would have to come back with a board agenda item, either to recognize the new rate, and then if there's any employees that are in question, we're going to have to come back and take care of it. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just laying the ground rules so that everybody understands.
If I understand what he's saying, what you're saying is that this compensation plan, go back to the drawing board. When you bring it back to us, when we increase those pays, we'll make it retroactive for this school year. And I have no problem with that.
Dr. Montoya,
go ahead,
if that is the case. But before we move on to table it, I want to make sure one more time, what are the objections? Now, I recorded or I wrote down what Dr. Saavedra said, that she wants a little asterisk that says, refer back to the 5-year plan. Do you want me to include the 5-year plan in here, or just say the 5-year plan? Because if we do, then I need those clarifications. The other one is once we, and I'll check with legal, once we put this verbiage or language, if it's within the legal parameters that we can, Is that the only two items that you are having issues with? And if not, might as well tell me what they are so that I can take care of them, bring them back, and hopefully get it approved at the next board meeting.
Once and for all, and not for the next board meeting, we come up with different objections. Mrs. Presas?
Yes, I guess what it is that.
Well, they don't get it
Thank you. You know, if we can just, Dr. Montoya, make sure that maybe we get a draft before it's brought to us so we can go ahead and make that correction immediately or call you instead of us having to turn it down. So send a draft to us, staple it as a draft, and then just go ahead and we look at those, and we need to get it together. And we've already discussed the compensation, so let's work with those numbers. Did we not have
a draft? I thought I studied one.
No,
yeah.
Dr. Escobedo, what I hear her saying is that we get a draft, and we get a draft like Friday to approve it for, let's say, Tuesday. What I am reading or understanding her to say is we get a draft, and if we have any changes or concerns, note them and give them back to the superintendent, and then he can get administration to make the corrections, send it back out to us before the meeting. I know it's a lot of work, but it would avoid all this, delay. And if I may also say, on page 11, we asked that to remove the strike on the supervisor for athletics. You said which ones? You only mentioned 2. There's 3 for athletics to remain, not to strike it out, to leave that position as is.
I mean, just to follow up on Mrs. Peña's remarks, I mean, I've had so many drafts of this compensation plan for the longest time. I'm not sure why we feel we're rushed. I've had this for a while now. How long have we been discussing the compensation plan?
Dr. Montoya, if I may, originally it was presented in March 28th. This is the 9th time.
The 9th time, yeah. So by no means, I have not felt rushed, and I've got a stack of drafts. But anyway, Mr. Aguilar?
No, bottom line, what they're saying is get it right.
Yes, that's it.
That's all.
And again,
we can go on.
I echo what Mr. Garcia just said. Is there any other, so that we get it right and give you your draft, is there any other changes? Because I heard 2 or 3 here now, I think, Mr. Garcia, that we can do, but is there any others? Is there any others?
There's 3 so far.
Yes,
Number, page 37, the employee supplemental pay, the one that, shouldn't you write some kind of a notation there, or one time?
That's the one. That's the one we're discussing.
Okay.
Dr. Montoya and Dr. Escobedo, if I may, and I know you said, and the word was mentioned, get it right. All the changes that have been mentioned, we put them in here. Yes. Now it seems that every time we present it again, there's additional changes, and we'll continue doing all those changes until, quote unquote, we get it right. But it has been, everything, all the suggestions that have been done in every presentation have been incorporated and will continue to be incorporated. It's not like we're not changing, it's that it changes every time we present.
And I'm going to agree with that sentiment, because I too have seen the changes, and I see that you implement the changes, so we just come up with more. So maybe the next time won't have any new changes. With that said, Mr. Colunga?
I concur with what you're saying. I think we've had meeting after meeting regarding the employee compensation plan. We need to be more efficient in trying to consider getting beyond it. I think we would consider the supplement or the amendment to the plan to add any changes rather than to continue to make changes at the last minute and hold up the approval.
And Dr. Escobedo, with that said, if I may, I understand, but I don't like amendments. That's my whole objective of getting it the first time so we don't amend. I'm extremely uncomfortable with amendments, and that's why I like to see it done properly the first time so we have no amendments.
I'm more uncomfortable not adopting the compensation plan for a year that already started.
We have one. We adopted the current one. The current one.
Mrs. Longoria?
If there's only 3 minor corrections, why can't we approve it with the understanding that you're going to go make those corrections? We have approved resolutions, other contracts that you make corrections. I mean, if it's just 3 little changes.
Well, that would have to be a motion by the prevailing side to reconsider. So, one final.
Could we, if we go as a prevailing side to reconsider and then pull out those with the conditions that they are to be done within the next 24 hours, 48 hours, and And we see the actual changes, page 11, page 37, with those conditions. We are approving it that within 48 hours, these changes are to be returned for Friday's mail. And that we see, and let's put closure to it and move on.
So do I have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Presas to reconsider item 19, seconded by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So now I will open the motion again for item 19.
I'd like to make a motion that the compensation plan that is presented to us tonight is approved with the following changes. That we change, let's start with, was it page 11?
Not changes, corrections.
Page 4, with the following corrections. They're going to be corrections. Page 4, that we add on to, if you will make that statement, Ms.
Yeah, just to
Doctor.
put an asterisk, probably either at the top or at the bottom, where it says to refer to the Fine Arts Department 5-year plan, or whatever plan she's got. I don't know if it's a 5-year or 6-year.
It's a 5-year.
And the following correction would be on page 11, to reinstate the position for supervisor for athletics for special education children and athletics for middle school. And then
That be reinstated.
yes, reinstate, because it's stricken here. So remove the strike and leave that position as a pay grade 5. And that would have to be done in order for the motion that passed earlier on the grievance we just heard. And then on page 37, sorry, I lost my page. On page 37, if we could add on there for the all employees, November and May stipend, $600 per semester, with an asterisk that says, if available, it could be a reoccurring, subject to availability. Or no, I'm sorry. Read the first one I gave you, sir. I forgot.
Gave me, may I, Dr.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
For me to put one-time supplement may continue if funds are available, or if you want to go the other one, subject to availability of funds. That's why I need to get it cleared by our
legal.
Yes, if you get the legal term in, and the objective of that is, if the funds are available, this particular stipend for all employees will continue year after year.
Dr. Montoya, may I ask one more?
Yes, go ahead.
From the board. Now, if you all do approve it with those things, do you want me to send you the entire booklet within 24 hours, or do you want those pages changed?
Just those pages.
Or do you want, and then the next thing is, do we continue with the highlights since now it's approved? I take that. You tell me what you want me to do, because I want to get it approved and as
All the
close
other
as possible.
highlights looked well.
I don't want it. I'm already know what. What does this board
We just
wish?
need those pages.
Those
I would
three-
just
those
go
three-
with the
pages.
And we could do it
pages.
this Friday's mail.
Those 3 pages.
Just the pages.
those pages.
Not the whole book.
And then we have one for the district.
Can you repeat the motion?
Mrs. Peña, you made the
I
motion.
know, but she wrote it down for me, so I'm just asking. Please. This is very important. Ms. Perez, I want to make sure we said it right.
The motion for the 3 corrections would be page 48, either the top or the bottom, to refer to Fine Arts Department 5-year plan.
Page 4.
Page 4.
I'm sorry, page 4. Page 11, reinstate position for special education athletics for middle school. Page 37, add all employees May and November, $600 per semester, one-time supplement if funds are available.
No, there was more to it.
Well, he's going to check the verb.
Okay.
You're right.
And the objective is to, if it's available, it'll be a reoccurrent, this supplement will continue year after year if funds available.
So, Garcia, any more clarifications?
Subject to the district.
Subject to availability.
That was her motion, I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to item 30.
Congratulations, you have your plan.
26, recommend approval of resolution number 006-12-13 for the Brownsville Independent School District to participate in described purchasing programs of the Region 1 Purchasing Co-op for the 2012-2013 school year. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Savera.
Yes, this goes back to our presentation of all the programs that we purchase. Again, we need to make sure, Dr. Montoya, that we do a better job in evaluating the programs that we are funding, whether they come from Region 1, another vendor, whatever. But we need to make sure that the utilization is there. I'm going to request that and how that ties into the student achievement. So whatever programs we have, you need to ensure that it's being utilized and that it does tie in with student achievement.
We'll follow up. Those are two excellent points.
Any other discussion? If not, a motion to approve item 26.
Motion.
To approve.
Second.
I think it was a motion by Dr. Saavedra, seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 27. Recommend approval of resolution number 007-12-13. I'll open the floor for discussion, Dr. Saavedra.
Yeah, it's the same thing on all of these. We did get the backup, and I know that our utilization of our library resources need to improve, especially now with the STAR testing and more information, more of the nonfiction informational texts. So I know that our elementary always does a very good job in utilizing the resources they have, but I'm not really pleased with the numbers of the books that are used or the library resources for middle school and high school. And that's where our students, if we're preparing them for college and doing our early colleges and our rigor, then we need to really have a better usage of these library resources. So again, the utilization, I'd like numbers, I'd like more data, because we do, it is quite a bit of money that we do spend in all these programs. So if they're not utilized, maybe we can find something else that they'll use. So that's it.
Excellent point. Any other discussion? If not, a motion to approve item 27.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Presa, seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 37, budget amendment 013. Open for discussion, Mrs. Presas.
Yes, on that one, Dr. Montoya, they're keeping a close eye because I know that in the past, the function that was for athletics, it was always a little higher. So I believe now we're doing a little better.
Yes, I think Mr. Garcia, this is carryover, if I understand correctly.
Mr. Garcia?
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, yes, that is correct. Item number 37 is carryover purchase orders for athletics. These are purchase orders that carried over from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. The total amount is $57,492, and in the book we have provided you with the actual on page 4 as to the purchase orders and the amount for each one.
Mm-hmm.
And that department won't be on the negative like it was before in the past? In the red?
Mr. Garcia?
Yes, Dr. Montoya and Dr. Escobedo, to answer your question, Ms. Garcia, remember that our athletics, we code it differently under Fund 165, and we always, every year, we have to supplement it with some additional 199 monies. Unfortunately, our athletic program does not generate enough money from revenue from its athletic events and things of this sort to sustain itself. Now, we're keeping a real close eye on it, and hopefully we don't have to transfer any money at the end of the school year. I feel confident that we were not going to have to do that.
Thank you, sir. That's my only question.
Any other discussion? If not, I have a motion to approve item 37.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Presa, seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 38, budget amendment 014. Mrs. Presas?
Yes, on this one, I guess it's for the different projects that we have ongoing. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Garcia. Again, it's carryover monies also, right?
Garcia. Mrs. Presas, what is your question?
Yes, this is for the ongoing projects, the ones that we're finishing up, or the ones that they've from the QSCB bonds, correct?
Garcia?
Yes, Dr. Montoya and Dr. Escobedo, to answer your question, Ms. Garcia, yes, these are QSCB bonds. It's a total of $1.1 million. The main ones are coming from BEX, which is the one that we're about to end, and then also BEC, which we took a substantial complete a couple of meetings ago. So yes, that is
okay. That was my
related to
question.
those.
Any other discussion?
Motion.
Have a motion by Mrs.
Move to
Presas.
approve. Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Bless you.
Item 40, budget amendment 016. Dr. Saavedra?
Yes, if you look in your booklets to that amendment 16,
Okay.
It's page 10, I guess.
Yes, page 10 is correct.
Okay. What were these services for?
Dr. Montoya, if I may? Yes, all of those, with the exception of 602, which is the first one, which is Valley Speech, Language, and Learning,
Right.
because that's all the other ones. These are the student manuals for STEMs, and the top part is Function 11. If you notice, those are all your middle schools, which is Southern Methodist University and Alpha Graphics. And then the other part, the other component is Function 13, which is the staff development from Southern Methodist University, but it's all related to STEMs and it's all related to the middle schools. That's what those, 042 to 055 would indicate.
Any further discussion?
No, that's all I wanted to know.
Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by Mrs. Peña to approve item 40, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 61. Recommend approval to renew Regional Education Service Center renewal in the amount not to exceed $345,000 for the 2012-2013 school year. Items to be purchased and services rendered are subject to district needs and funding. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, again, my comment and my concern is that's a lot of money that we're spending, so we need to just ensure that we do get the data and that we do get all the schools and that we do get more respondents participating in our surveys. And if it's a low number, we need to, try and get, I really want to get a feel for the district. Which exactly where are the campuses? And I guess this goes to the AAs, I think, as well, that if y'all can communicate with each other, principals, curriculum department specialists, everybody needs to be on the same page. It seems like we're fragmented, and the presentation was excellent. I mean, the cheerleaders were great. The teachers are doing a fantastic job, but it always goes back to the ones who are doing are the ones we hear about. As Mr. Aguilar mentioned, where are the others? Because obviously we're getting the calls. There is communication. We have to accept that. If you have 50% of your teachers that you survey are saying, we need time for planning, there's not enough time for planning, because you know that good teachers do need time for planning. You also supplies. So all of these things we need to take into consideration to make sure. And if we need to hold Region 1 accountable, as they're there, and thank you for staying, and they know what it's like. They know they can get the numbers for us. They can help us. I know that I've worked with them in the past, and all you have to do is pick up the phone and ask them what you want. But we have to know what we want. We have to know the data we want. We just can't get a bunch of data out there. We need to make sure and tie it to student achievement. We keep asking that and we don't see it. So, with that, I just want to make sure we're utilizing that amount of money to ensure that the teachers are using the C-scope, because it is a good tool for us to use.
Excellent point, Dr. Saavedra. Mrs. Longoria?
Yes. Did I hear or understand that these monies are coming out of federal funds or title some?
Dr. Montoya?
Go ahead, Dr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, Dr. Escobedo. I think what we sent you, and I think you might have it before you, it was an update, because we're looking at being able to utilize up to $300,000 from our TLI grant, the other $45,000 from categorical funds.
All right, that was
the discussion.
That was all.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Dr. Saavedra and seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 65, recommend approval to authorize the superintendent to sign the contract for supplemental education services to various state-owned SES providers in the amount not to exceed $2,600,000 from Fund 211 Title I. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure again, Dr. Montoya, that as we look at these services, and I know they're coming from Title I, again, just to make sure that all the supplemental services, materials, resources, whatever we have, that we do a better job, and that based on our needs, and we do have many needs.
Dr. Montoya, if I may, real quick.
Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo. Just for clarification, item number 65, this is the set aside for the SES provider, supplemental educational services. These are the tutorials that contractors go out and actually work with their students. Right.
Okay, great.
Any discussion? If not, I have a motion to approve item 65. I have a motion by Mrs. Peña, seconded by Mrs. Presas. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 66, discussion, consideration, and possible action to awarding RFP number 12-103 for financial services. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
No, I think we're going to decide right between the two. Was that my? That was my question.
Right, yeah, we're just discussing.
And administration, I would like, I guess who? Dr. Montoya, who
Go
are you
ahead, Mr. Garcia. I know we talked at length about it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo. At this point, we're going to recommend the highest ranking or ranked financial advisor, and that would be Bill and Company.
With that said, any further discussion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Dr. Saavedra to approve, seconded by Mrs. Presas. All in favor? Raise your right hand.
Right hand.
4.
We have 3. All opposed? 3 abstentions.
Ms. Peña had raised her hand.
Okay, let's make sure we clarify this.
Let's say this again.
Okay, Mr. Garcia, would you repeat your recommendation?
Yes. Again, Dr. Montoya, if I may.
Go ahead.
Administration's recommendation is to go with the highest ranked financial advisor, which is Bill and Company. Now, you do have the other one in case, for whatever reason, it doesn't pass, then we always have the plan B or the backup.
Because bottom line, both are well qualified and both can do a job.
No.
Okay, well,
everybody's entitled to their opinion.
So with that said, do I have a motion to approve? I'm sorry.
Motion already by Dr. Saavedra.
The motion was by Dr. Saavedra. The second was by Mrs. Presas. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Mrs. Peña, how are you voting?
I'm abstaining because I don't have I misread some information, so I'm abstaining until I get clarification.
Okay, so the motion dies with Dr. Saavedra, Mrs. Longoria, Mrs. Presas voting against, Mr. Colunga, Mr. Aguilar. I'm sorry, Dr. Saavedra, Mrs. Longoria, and Mrs. Presas voted in favor of the recommendation.
Recommendation by administration.
And Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Colunga, and I voted against the recommendation, and Mrs. Peña abstained, so the item dies. So, Dr. Montoya, now what?
Now what?
Well,
it dies, so do we open the floor for another motion?
It could be another motion, but go ahead, Mr.
Garcia.
Dr. Montoya, and with this, I'm going to get some clarification from legal counsel. I believe that because we have the second one, we can move to recommend the second one. If it dies again, then we have to go out for bids and RFPs and start the whole process again.
Okay, well, with that said, I'll move to approve the firm of Estrada Hinojosa as financial advisors. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor, raise your right hand. 3, 4. All against?
I thought
3.
you said, I have a question right here, right now. No, for the record.
Point of order. We went for a vote and the vote was casted. We had Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Colunga, myself, and Mrs. Peña voted in favor of Estrada Hinojosa.
Dr. Escobedo.
Dr. Escobedo, let me clarify my yes, because I heard what he said, that he has to go out and look for RFQs and do the whole process. I apologize. I saw the look on your face, like, I can't believe we're going to do this. So that's why I voted for it, because that's the...
But you see, that's what should have been in the first place, because you said, you contradicted yourself.
Point of order, Mrs. Presas.
Could you allow me the floor, please, sir?
Okay, I'll allow you the floor, but the vote has been made.
But you said that you were, because of the information you didn't have. So all of a sudden it changed from one to the other? That's bad.
You know, point of order. We cannot question each other's votes. If you decide to vote one way or another, whether or not we agree, the point is that the motion passed.
It's not fair either.
With Mr. Colunga, Mr. Aguilar, myself, and Mrs. Peña voted in favor of the firm of Estrada Hinojosa.
We might have a liability here.
We might have. That's my concern, Doctor.
Well, Mr. Michel, do we have a liability of some sort here?
It's not apparent what sort of.
What sort of liability, Dr. Saavedra? What kind of liability?
Well, I'm saying all of a sudden in the first, she said she was undecided because she had some questions, clarification. Then it comes up to the second, and then all of a sudden she's ready to vote. The question she had, I guess, got answered immediately.
Mr. Michel, is that a liability?
You know?
It doesn't overturn it's not a basis for overturning.
it's not
the
another
vote.
bill.
But, and she had raised her hand in the beginning, so it was 4-3.
Please stop questioning the way I vote.
Bottom line
I
is the
don't
vote has
question
been
your way.
taken and the motion
Okay,
is passed.
that's fine.
We move on to item.
Let me just make one quick comment. We will immediately, tomorrow, Mr. Garcia, get in touch with a selected firm because we need to start going on issues to try to develop revenue. So we'll need
Item number 73, recommend awarding bid number 13-001, contracted sign language interpreters district-wide. I'll open the floor for discussion. Mrs. Presas,
You can move on, sir.
any further discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve
Move
item
to approve.
73? I have a motion by Mrs. Peña, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 73, recommend awarding bid 13-009, speech therapist. Mrs. Presas,
You can move on, sir.
any further
Move to
discussion?
approve.
I have a motion, Mrs. Peña, seconded by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 81, recommend approval bid number 13-017, fire extinguishing services. I'll open the floor for discussion. Any discussion? If not, a motion to approve item number 81.
Move to approve.
A motion, Mrs. Peña, seconded by Mrs. Longoria. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes
That was
unanimously.
88?
That was 81.
Oh, 81.
Mrs. Presas, are you voting in favor?
Sir, for the record, I got to get going, sir, so please.
So on 81, you're not voting on 81?
I'm not voting. I'm not voting on the continuous items. I got to get going.
Okay,
I
thank you.
apologize.
Moving on to item 88, recommend awarding bid number 13-024, preventative maintenance and repair for vehicle equipment district-wide. I'll open for floor. Oh, I'm sorry, this is cast lots. I apologize. We will cast lots. This is for several vendors.
go ahead and...
This is item number 10.
How many do we have?
Red Barn Tire Center. Red Barn Tire Center. Now we are number 11.
For the record, I apologize to the public, but I will be leaving at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Presas. Red Barn Tire Center. Red Barn Tire Center. Now we are number 12. Red Barn Tire Center. Red Barn Tire Center, number 13. Red Barn Tire Center.
Are they the only ones?
Number
in the
34. Number 34.
That's all right.
Just two.
La suerte. Yeah. Luck, man.
Spot Rubber Welders. Spot Rubber Welders. Number 56. Spot Rubber Welders. 57. One Stop Service Center. 58. Spot Rubber Welders, and 59. Hymus Tire Store. Hymus Tire Store. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion, Mr. Aguilar, second by Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. We'll go into closed meeting as pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 et sec. Board goes to closed meeting for personnel issues. The board reconvenes after closed session. Will there be objections from the board if we do the personnel in group? If not, do I have a motion to approve items 97 through 106? That's 97 through 106. I have a motion, Mrs. Peña, seconded by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. With that said, Dr. Montoya, any final announcements?
No final announcements, just a reminder of the two rallies tomorrow and the next day, and that's it.
I have a motion to approve, to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion, Mrs. Peña, second by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.
Good night, Brownsville. Good night.